Canada's legacy media, now beyond the pale. Yeah, lots going on. Obviously, Pierre Poilievre breaks the internet with Joe Rogan and Canadian internet anyway. And Mark Carney and Liberals having trouble with the truth. We got a lot of stories today. And it's Friday. It's the really big show. Gavin Dew, Kelowna MLA, is going to jump in around, I think, 9:30. He's going to jump in. We're going to talk about BC, Ken, and he's going to talk about the story we put up this morning. Basically, can BC afford the NDP anymore? And I mean, you could ask that same question about Canada. We got lots going on, though, right? And not sure if the internet's going to survive this one, but let's get into it.
Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Check and Ian Burns.
Wild day on the internet there with Pierre Poilievre and Joe Rogan and the reaction. But we're not going to start there. We're going to start with because this is another Mark Carney flip flop. I don't know if he's the pancake. Remember Justin Trudeau when he was trying to make pancakes? He's kind of a messy pancake maker, and I would say Mark Carney might be a messy pancake maker as well there as he flip flops. And now for his next flip-flop, Mark Carney has now endorsed a statement from Canada and its allies expressing willingness to contribute efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but does not say how they propose to help there. And that's and that he's joined 6 other Western nations as U.S. and Israel asked for help to open up the Strait of Hormuz there. And that is going to be led by, I think, the UK, France, Japan, and several other allies there in Canada. As a last minute kind of jumped in because many of the news outlets announcing all the other allies, 6 big ones, and then Canada was kind of a footnote. And many of the news outlets don't even have Canada in there because obviously Mark Carney and Canada late to the party. He was waiting for Keir Starmer to give him the go-ahead, I guess.
Can you imagine taking leadership cues from Keir Starmer? What the hell? What does that say about your self-respect? But yeah, I mean, well, maybe it was Emmanuel Macron. Let's give him credit. Let's give Mark Carney some credit there.
And it's kind of weird. That was after Mark Carney said in the House of Commons, never will participate. And he underlined never. Keir Starmer also did the same kind of like pomp and ceremony there with the never word. And all of a sudden, never becomes tomorrow, I guess. And they're now participating. I don't know what Canada's going to offer. Maybe that's why many of the other international media outlets left Canada out because, like, what is it that Canada's going to offer in the Strait of Hormuz? Maybe a strongly worded letter from Anita Anand, perhaps?
Sent to the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, even though he's dead. That's probably about it, isn't it? That's probably what she'll do.
Price of oil is still very high. Price of the pump still very high. Many Canadians and people in the world feeling the pressures, though, for sure, as that war rages on. We do have an update here on the war here, and this is from Fox News and their correspondent there in Dubai.
Martha, the CEO of that Qatari gas field, the largest in the world, says 17% of its export capacity was destroyed in that Iranian strike, and it'll take 3 to 5 years to repair. And General Cain admitted earlier at the Pentagon there are still more targets to destroy.
They came into this fight with a lot of weapons. This is why we continue to be as aggressive and assertive as we can against their ballistic missile capability, both their medium-range ballistic range missile capabilities. So we are continuing to hunt and find them and kill them, and we will continue to do so. So they still retain some capability.
General Cain says A-10s, the old warhorse, are flying strike missions off the coast of Iran right now, destroying Iran's small boats used by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Apache helicopter gunships as well. He also said U.S. jets are now flying deeper into Iran, flying further east. It's worth noting, Martha, that Iran was hitting oil facilities across the Persian Gulf even before these Israeli strikes. The amount of liquefied natural gas from the Persian Gulf that is shipped to American shores is effectively zero. The U.S. is now now the largest LNG exporter in the world. Your next guest will speak to that. Iran's foreign minister posting on X in part, quote, "Our response to Israel's attack on our infrastructure employed fraction of our power. The only reason for restraint was respect for requested de-escalation." Now, in Saudi Arabia, Iran fired ballistic missiles at Riyadh while diplomats, ministers from neighboring Gulf countries and across the Middle East were meeting. Now, if anyone thought that Iran's attacks on the Gulf nations, and especially here in the UAE, would fracture the alliance and the special relationship with the United States, the UAE announced today that it will be moving forward with its $1.4 trillion investment in the United States. Recall, Martha, that President Trump was just here in the UAE as well as Riyadh and Doha in the spring, receiving these massive investments, and they will go through, especially when it comes to air defense. More air defense are being shipped here to the Emirates. Martha?
That's good, yeah.
Big news. And this is big news from our perspective. This is very big news for Canada, I think. Potentially 5 years of, not operating at full capacity for the world's largest gas facility. We've got some of that,
Opportunity.
haven't we?
Yeah.
We've
knock,
got a little
knock.
bit of
Hey,
that stuff.
knock, knock, knock. Somebody's knocking on the door. Opportunity
I would
knocks.
say, look, we're here. Everybody, what I would say, most people watching this, you and I sat here. We're thinking, right, lads, let's do it. Like, let's go. This is great. It's like you're driving into the parking lot at Costco, and there's one spot. You can see it. You can reach it. You're gonna get that spot. You're gonna go quick, aren't you? And you're gonna get yourself into that spot, and you're gonna have a lovely time at Costco. That's obvious, isn't it? However, we're not driving this car. Mark Carney is our chauffeur, and the question is he gonna get that parking spot? Because so far, it's been, let's be honest, it's been open for about 10, 15 years. And they've never taken it. So don't get your hopes up. But this is just yet another gigantic opportunity for Canada. Not only to make bucket loads of money, an embarrassment of riches. It's just lying on the floor. It's not just that, but it's also an opportunity for Canada to be important. It's an opportunity for Canada to be a major player in world energy and LNG exports. It's an opportunity for Canada to be a country that people feel the need to talk to, like they do Qatar. Have a look at Qatar on the map. Again, I told you about Israel. You can just about see Qatar. Just about see it. You have to sort of look closer. It's a tiny country that would be completely meaningless and ignored if it didn't have all of this energy. But because it does have that, it's a very important country. So if you're into that kind of thing, and I know Mark Carney is, and the Liberals are, if you want to be an important country, here you go. It's right there.
Reminds me of a song out of the 60s. I got a brand new roller skate. You got a brand new key. Why don't we get together? Why don't we get together? There's a need, and we have the ability to fill the need. Why are we squandering that opportunity? And we're going to talk a lot about that as we go through this today, and lots to talk about. And just a reminder, Gavin Dew going to jump in here at 9:30. He's got about 10 minutes here. We're going to talk about the downgrade of the British Columbia debt, a common problem in Canada right now, the downgrade of debt in British Columbia. And it's also Friday, so we're going to do a member show here at noon as well, our quick little member show. So if you're not a member, you hit the join button and you can be part of the member show. That's where you can have more discussions with Iain and I, and support independent journalism here in Canada. But the big thing, like Iain's just talking about, the big thing, that's why we got the globe up here, because we want to emphasize to Canadians how important geography is to trade. And again, if you don't have a globe, you don't have a map, you can go on Google. You notice that Canada sits on top of the United States, the longest unprotected border in the world. The two nations connected by geography. Most of our population lives along that fine line right along the border as well. And we're so interconnected. And Pierre Poilievre's appearance on Joe Rogan underlined the importance of that trade relationship. Yet it seems like there's a lot of people on both sides of the border that seem to want to fracture that relationship. But there's experts now coming out. The geography doesn't change. Like there's a poll that came out and said many Canadians want to join the European Union. Again, it's like way over there compared to like way right there. And the geography is so important. It comes in play in the shipping. Like we can use pipelines to get LNG and oil to the United States, where we don't have to use ships and everything else that goes with it. And we don't have really a Navy to support anything. I mean, if we want to ship everything overseas, we're still relying on the US Navy because we're, decades away from building our own Navy. Even if we had the decision to build our own Navy, we would be decades away from building a Navy that could support the security of our ships overseas. It's just
and even then, would it work? If we were trying to go around in the South China Sea, we're trying to go around eastern Siberia, so that's China and Russia. If they took umbrage to us sending trade convoys around, could we fight them? No.
Like Canada needs a hard dose of reality. Maybe pour yourself a little bit of Canadian club there, or whatever you need, whatever your poison is. Pour yourself a shot of that, and then just start talking truths and stop with the nonsense. And the truth is, geography sets our trade parameters, and our lack of military sets our partner. We rely on the Americans for security. There is nobody else to rely on. There is no one. I mean, it's just common sense. So you need to turn off CBC and CTV and these people that are going to tell you differently, and these polls that tell you nonsense. Shut them off. Come to the Really Big Show where we'll share the truth with you. We're independent, unapologetic, and we're trying to save Canada for a better tomorrow for everybody. And I think it's the only truth shall set us free. I think a wise man once said that, a wise person, whatever you want to call it. But we seem to not want to do our trade deal. And here's a little bit from Jameson Greer, the trade ambassador here, listening to what he has to say and what is being worked on, because Mexico seems to be way ahead of the game here with us.
Agreement this week. When I spoke with you a couple of months ago, you told me that it was likely going to be bilateral deals, U.S.-Mexico and U.S.-Canada. Of course, the president talked about this throughout his second term, but he did this deal in his first term. Discussions surrounding the security of North American supply chains there as well. What can you tell us about those negotiations?
Well, right after this TV spot, Maria, I'm going back to my office and I'm meeting with the Mexican Minister of Economy and his team. This week we are having our first formal negotiations with Mexico on the USMCA, and we are doing it just as the president said. We're having talks separately with Canada, but we've moved along with Mexico. Canada is behind on this. With Mexico, we're already at the stage of some formal talks. We're going to be talking about rules of origin, which is really a term of art that talks about how much content in the goods that are being traded between the United States and Mexico are from the United States and Mexico. We just don't want Mexico to become a hub for goods imported from Vietnam or China or somewhere else. If we're going to have some kind of a deal, it has to be a deal for Mexico and the United States, and the goods should be made up of content from Mexico and the United States.
Now, given the move in oil prices and some.
So Mexico seems to be moving ahead. Canada seems to be still stuck in hauteur and virtue signaling. And we're going to see the reaction that when Pierre Poilievre went on with Joe Rogan, and I think he was very well behaved, and you're going to see that the evidence of that, and the reaction from the legacy media here in Canada is beyond the pale. And yeah.
I just added something to bear in mind. This guy is not some sort of neutral observer, obviously. He's on Team America. And they're both trying to spook each other, aren't they? Mark Carney and his squad. I still insist on reading almost everything that they're doing as a very, very long negotiation with the Americans. And I think of this is negotiation. This is them saying, if you don't wise up and come and make concessions that we want you to make, we're just going to do a bilateral with Mexico. Whether or not that would actually happen is another question, but I think that's what our helium boffing friend here is doing. I think that's the purpose that this interview serves.
Mark Carney, throughout his year now, has had a lot of trouble. And during his election campaign, we saw that yesterday with his chip thing, where Canada's the biggest maker of chips, has a real trouble with, how do you say it nicely, with honesty, the truth, misrepresentation, misinformation, disinformation. Here again, the feds admit the Prime Minister misled media on his private meetings with Chinese communist leaders. Privy Council records show documents written by cabinet aides directly contradicted Carney's claims that he raised the human rights and foreign interference with Beijing hosts. When he was asked, it was pretty clear, right? Topics of human rights and foreign interference were not brought up proactively by the Canadian Prime Minister. And that's from the Privy Council. There was no explanation. Carney, under questioning by reporters on January 16th, repeatedly claimed he raised concerns about human rights. In the meetings over the last couple of days, did any of these issues come up? Asked a reporter. And Carney never really ever says these one short answers. Yes. And apparently the answer was no. He would have been better off with his thing than just the yes.
That is quite remarkable, isn't it? And indeed, it is. It's misinformation. It's information put out there to mislead. That's precisely what it is. And unlike poor Joe Rogan there, who's getting that label slapped all over him by CBC and the rest, Mr. Carney has not been exposed to that indignity, has he? He continues to be Gandalf in their eyes and would never tell a lie.
But this is followed up with tons of other cabinet ministers in questions asked about what are the security threats to Canada. China never mentioned. What are the what other issues, conflicts of interest that China not mentioned? There's just on and on and on. It seems to be, and they even pulled MPs out of Taiwan before Mark Carney went to China, and the Conservatives left their MPs there. And the media, again, forgot to ask those questions as well. But these are blatant misinformation, lies, whatever you want to call it. Because you would remember that. It's not like, oh, that slipped my mind. Because he was asked several times, and the answer was yes, clearly, not, well, I think so. You're not sure? And that was after 10 minutes of President Xi berating or lecturing Mark Carney on how he must not speak ill of the president of China.
But as well, it's just the contradictions, the hypocrisy, the lack of principles. They're so upset with Russia for invading Ukraine. Understandable why they would be so upset, but they make that seem so obvious, and that's just such a solid, like rock hard principle that they have. And yet China has conquered plenty of land and peoples, including Tibet. Remember Tibet? Does anybody remember Tibet these days? Conquered by the Chinese Communist Party and remains under the boot of the Chinese Communist Party to this day. It's not like we're not just talking about like really vague stuff when we say human rights. I don't think they should say human rights. They should say something else, like values or crimes or atrocities or something. Use language like that.
Crimes against humanity would be more fitting.
Yeah. Xinjiang. These are just against other peoples. But if you look at what the communists have done to their own people or people that they rule, Great Famine, Cultural Revolution, Tiananmen Square. It goes on and on. They still claim Taiwan. They claim the East China Sea and the South China Sea. Completely mad. They've gone and artificially manufactured islands in the South China Sea and said, this is ours now. and everything around it's ours too. And they go up to Filipino fishermen and stuff like that and start sending them water and spraying water cannons on them and things. Like the Chinese, the list is very, very long. At least as long as the list that we have on Russia. I would argue much longer than the list we have on Russia. And yet Russia is the devil incarnate, cannot even speak to those. Just like, if you say the word Russia, you've got to spit afterwards. However, China will go over there and we will crawl to the feet of the emperor and kiss his shoes and say, yes, my divine lord, we would love to enter into a relationship with you. Where are the principles, chums? And Carney even tries to explain it here. I mean, he's asked a question, if you look, are these things, talking about the human rights in China, are these things that Canada just can't afford to think about because we have to diversify our markets? In other words, is it money over principles? The answer to that is yes. Carney responds, no. Be honest then. So it becomes an honesty question and a consistency question. Why don't you just say, yeah, obviously we're not big fans of China, but they got loads of money and we're kind of poor right now. Ergo, we're doing business with them. But they won't do that. And then in the next breath, it'll be, oh yeah, and Putin's Hitler, by the way. This is just like such a low level, I mean, you have to be extraordinarily ignorant to swallow this kind of thing.
Thank you to Paul and David for your contributions to independent media. That really helps. We are very appreciative. Again, we have a members show coming up at noon today for anybody that's a member that you can join. And if you want to go to the reallybigshow.ca, you can see all the channels we're on and you can make contributions there as well to independent media. Do you remember when Trump started making noise about Greenland, about taking over Greenland by force if he had to? The media in Canada did go to Iran and to Russia for comments on how terrible the United States was, though. They did go and get a quote from Iran and Russia on how terrible. Whatever serves their purpose, they have no standards whatsoever. And they, like I said, they don't do anything on what's going on in China as they hold the line for the Carney liberals there and just like try to just pretend none of that happens. They're just like, I don't see nothing. And they even admit when they were there, they have to get burner phones for fear of being hacked, yet no security risk. And as Melanie Jolie says, and Mark Carney says, they're very clear-eyed when it comes to China. They're just not very clear-eyed and very honest with Canadians. When he answered that question, yes, why would he lie? Why would he spread misinformation? If this is our leader, and he sets the example for the rest of his cabinet as well. If it's okay for him to lie straight to your face, yes. And then when the documents show no, that's why they want all these secrecy. That's why they want to delete emails. That's why they want to prevent less access. The one rant I'm going to go on is like, right now, reporters, if you have any kind of moral code whatsoever, what's happening with Holly Donut Blacklocks right now, it should make you rise up. They're going to try and block Holly Donut from Blacklocks, saying she's not a qualified journalist, one of the best journalists in Canada here. And the Immigration and Global Affairs so far have said if she's not accredited under the government scheme, that they will not provide information to her. I mean, it's going to end up in court, but it shouldn't have to. Every reporter in Canada should stand up and say, we will not stand for this restrictions on freedom of the press. There is no court in this land or anybody with any reasonable common sense that would say Holly Donut Blacklocks is not one of the best journalists here in Canada.
Some would say she's one of the only journalists in Canada.
And then we're going to have Gavin Dew going to jump in a second here, but we're going to try and do a couple of these pieces. But what Iain talked about just a few minutes ago is the opportunity that Canada has with LNG, with nuclear, with oil and gas. It's just amazing the amount of opportunity we have. And we're actually reached out on just checking to say that's Gavin. He says he's trying to get in here, but it's not working. He's going to fall back to his phone if necessary. So, I've reached out for an interview with Shane Wenzel here too, and talking about uranium and nuclear energy here in Canada. I don't know if I have the right link for him. I'm pretty sure it's the last link that he had there. But for years, politicians in the Western world have insisted that windmills and solar panels would power the future here in Canada. And, you know, there's a few people that made a lot of money, including the couple liberals that made boatloads of money just recently when they got those under market loans there for the wind farm out there in Eastern Canada. Wab Canoe and David Eby talking about windmill farms. Meanwhile, beneath our feet, all these riches. And in Saskatchewan, uranium. And electricity demand rising faster than any green policies ever anticipated. AI, artificial. There's our friend Gavin Dew jumping in right now. We're just going to give him a second to get situated here. There he is, Mr. Dew. How are you this morning?
Very well. How are you?
We are doing well. Thank you for joining us. We did a story this morning on the credit downgrade here in British Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen this coming for a long time. The level of fiscal mismanagement that we've seen from this government is always been a problem, but has become truly stunning with this latest budget.
And that's the fourth downgrade in 5 years.
Fifth.
Fifth in the last 5 years, BC. Wow.
It's easy to lose
Five,
track.
five credit downgrades
Yeah,
in 4 years. I got that wrong. I thought, wow, that couldn't be true, right? It must have had that wrong. Yeah, 5 credit downgrades in 4 years.
When we're losing track of how many credit downgrades there's been, Jim, that's not your fault. That's the government's fault. We literally can't keep up with the bad news coming out of this government and coming out of this budget. So, you know, despite $4 billion in extra taxes, they're north of $13 billion on the deficit, a tripling of debt, and frankly, a number of the measures taken just to get to those numbers, a PST expansion that is going to be extremely harmful for small business, for housing affordability, for seniors, for people that are struggling to get by, you name it. And, you know, the cancellation or quote, repacing of significant capital projects that, especially when it comes to long-term care, are going to leave a giant gap that only makes things worse for seniors when we're going to have a 16,000 spot shortfall in terms of long-term care beds in this province, just as we hit a gray tsunami. So we're in serious trouble right now.
Can BC afford the NDP and their policies anymore?
I don't think so, Jim. It's very clear we're going to have to make a change. And I think the great concern is whether the NDP is able or willing to make that change. Some of that is going to have to be about reining in spending, which they've shown no willingness to do. And some of that is going to have to be about restoring economic confidence to get job creation happening and regrow a tax base that is shrinking. I don't see any indication that they have either the willingness or the understanding to make those kinds of fundamental changes.
And this downgrade comes after this budget drops, and then and Moody's saying that there is no plan to kind of get out of this. That's what they're worried about. I mean, there's the assets are in place, there's assets, and there is a path that just seems to not have the political will to find a way out of this. I think that's what the gist of what I'm getting out of Moody's there is, like there is a way if they found some fiscal prudence, but it doesn't seem to be that they want to make any changes or increase the revenue by increasing our access to the resources that are beneath our feet, and or cut some of the spending.
Exactly, Jim. And that's where I think people have just hit a point of giving up on this government. After the budget came out, I got a number of phone calls from business organizations, business people, folks who have been, I think, trying to play get along to go along with this government and hoping that there will be a level of sobriety, a level of common sense, hoping that things can actually turn around with this government. I think that this budget not only the budget itself, but the way that it was rolled out and communicated or not communicated. I think it was the final straw for a lot of people, and we are now looking at a government that has lost the confidence of a significant portion of the public, certainly lost the confidence of the business community, lost the confidence of markets in terms of not only the present state, but in terms of any hope that things will get better in the future. So now it's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of how much damage this NDP government does on its way out the door, particularly as they start feathering the nest and setting in for a long winter. I think things have gotten bad enough that as if we do our job as the conservative opposition, if we finish the build into a government in waiting, I think that there's probably going to be several terms of hard work ahead in order to turn things around and undo the damage that this NDP government has left us.
And just for listeners, why it matters when you get your credit downgraded, it means your cost of borrowing goes up, which then accelerates the debt even further.
Exactly, Jim. So under this budget, what's called the interest bite, the cents per dollar spent on interest payments is going to hit 8.2 cents for every dollar. So that's a huge share of all of the tax revenues that we bring in that will be dedicated to paying interest. And of course, as we see credit downgrades, that can mean more expensive borrowing. And as the blended cost of our overall debt portfolio as a province goes up, that means that we end up with a ministry of debt that is one of the largest ministries in the province.
Iain?
Well, I'm just going to reveal that we've asked Brenda Bailey to come on and explain this. So in the interest of I'm not convinced she will come on, personally. So in the interest of balance, I'm now gonna assume the form of Brenda Bailey, I suppose, and put the NDP side here. So the first thing that I think they might say, or try to say, is this isn't actually that bad. The top one is AAA, then it's AA1, isn't it? And then it's AA2. And AA2 is what this downgrade brings BC to, which is similar to a lot of European countries, like the United Kingdom, France, South Korea as well, in Asia there. It's better than Ontario. It's much better than Illinois, similar to California, New York. It's not so bad, basically, is an argument that might be made if you were Brenda Bailey. What do you say to that argument?
I mean, BC has gone from being one of the least indebted jurisdictions in Canada to one of the most in a very short period of time. We should endeavor to have a strong credit rating. We should endeavor to have low borrowing costs, and it reminds me of being a child and of saying, well, it's not so bad that I did whatever because my classmate did the same thing. We should judge our own performance. We should judge against our own past precedent. We should judge against the fact that as a province, we have historically been reasonably well managed from a fiscal perspective. And to be perfectly frank, even this NDP government can look back a few years to the fiscal management under John Horgan, with Carol James and Selina Robinson as finance ministers. When Selina Robinson, a former NDP finance minister, is calling this one of the worst budgets she's seen, when she's out swinging, that's pretty indicative. Even leading voices in the NDP are saying that this is a deeply misguided budget and a deeply misguided fiscal track. I don't think that there is almost anyone who thinks this is a good budget. I'm not even convinced that the 47 NDP MLAs that we sit across from in the legislature are all convinced this is a good budget. There's just no positive validation here. There's not a lot happening here that anyone can be proud of.
EB yesterday, he something I've seen our friend David Eby do a number of times. He pushed it back onto the BC Conservatives, and he basically said the reason that this has happened is because we've prioritized investment in British Columbia and to make British Columbians' lives better, and we've done that without really bothering what some international ratings agency says. Like, we've chose to invest. Whereas the BC Conservatives wouldn't do that. They would harm BC's health system and so on. Do you have a retort to that?
Yeah, he's lying. Look, the premier spent most of the last election in October of 2024 misrepresenting what our health platform was and making false claims about cuts. He continues to do that. All that this government has left is misleading the public about policies that are not the policies of the opposition, misleading the public about imaginary straw men that they're tilting at, and trying to distract people by picking fights over stupid things like somebody wearing a hoodie on Zoom to vote. This is not a serious government any longer. These people have absolutely lost the plot. I think David Eby has very much lost the support even of his own caucus. There is no question the knives are out. It is an open secret that members of his cabinet are preparing leadership campaigns to overtake him as leader. David Eby's political career is nearing an end, and he is just desperately lashing out and desperately trying to find anything that will allow him to hold on for a few more months.
Do you have any sympathy whatsoever with the argument made by ministers in the NDP, but also their defenders elsewhere, that this really is, it's kind of an unfortunate time to be in government? There's a lot of extraordinary events occurring around the world. I mean, even within Canada, within British Columbia, in terms of demographics, people leaving the province and so on. Do you have any sympathy at all, or does that factor in at all when you look at their performance? Do you kind of give them a little bit of a break for that?
Ian, I'm tempted to joke that I can't find any defenders of the NDP that you referenced. There's not a lot left. But to be serious for a minute, governing is hard. And I think that anybody who runs for office, anybody who seeks to form a government, um, does so because they want to try to make their province, their country, their city, whatever it is. They run because they want to try to make it better. So I think that there are probably good intentions there, but the execution is just not happening. I think, yes, it's true and fair to say that there are external events that create pressures on what we're going through as a province. We have faced Trump tariffs. We are now seeing, the international geopolitical conflicts create tensions, create challenges, create the environment you operate in. But that's also what you run to do. When you're elected, you have to be prepared to weather the storm and to navigate through difficult decisions. And most importantly, Ian, you have to be prepared to take accountability. And what I think frustrates a lot of people is not just the fact that, yes, there are external forces, tariffs being one of them, that are shaping the environment we operate in. But everybody is tired of David Eby and the NDP and Ravi Kahlon, who is his anointed successor, all these people. They're tired of hearing everything blamed on external forces when this has been the government for 9 years. Donald Trump didn't impose tariffs 9 years ago. Donald Trump wasn't premier of this province. Donald Trump wasn't in charge. The conflict in Iran wasn't happening 9 years ago. There have been years and years and years of systematic mismanagement that have led us to where we are economically. And absolutely, have tariffs been the icing on the cake? Yes, they have been. But things were bad already. If you look at the latest CFIB business barometer, British Columbia has a very high score on the effect of taxes on small business performance. In fact, small businesses are reporting taxes, including the new PST imposition, as being a bigger impact than tariffs. Those were imposed by this government. They weren't imposed by Donald Trump. Mismanagement was done by this government, by this NDP, not by Donald Trump. They have to take some accountability. And if they will not take accountability, and if they will not talk about the policies that they have made, that's another reason for people to feel as if there is a loss of confidence. A government that will not take accountability for its own policies and make decisions about what it's going to do going forward, and that only wants to talk about external forces, is not a serious government that is equipped to turn around the dire situation that we are in.
If I put my financial hat on, and this is what Moody's getting at here, is we can see the trend is down. We can see that the trend is to more debt, because it seems to be bigger debt, bigger debt, bigger debt, and then more taxation and less revenue, less investment in British Columbia. So the trend of Moody's looking at it, that's the That's a bad trend, and there is no plan to reverse that trend. I think that's what they're getting at. It's where's the credible plan to increase revenues? Where's the credible plan to incentivize investment in British Columbia? Where's the credible plan to cut spending? All three of those pillars are not in the NDP plan. It seems to be spend more, buy votes, and just hope for a better tomorrow, because I don't think hope is going to get us through this.
Yeah, Jim, hope is not a strategy. You need a plan. So we've called on the NDP to tear up this budget and come back with something that actually seriously addresses those issues. We are still waiting for them to bring back legislation in regard to DRIPA and in regard to addressing the serious crisis we're having around confidence in land title in this province, which is creating serious issues in terms of hampering capital investment on the land base of this province. We have not seen them begin to take that issue seriously at a time when it is inspiring a serious loss of confidence. I don't see any indication that they understand how to create fundamental conditions for investment for small businesses who have consistently among the lowest confidence of any province in Canada. And much of that loss of confidence is directly attributable to both the tax environment, the regulatory environment, and the public safety crisis that has been created by this government. And I don't see any serious effort to try to retain the individuals, the ideas, and the capital that are flowing out of this province and creating jobs elsewhere instead of here. So we are seeing serious erosion of the tax base, serious erosion of investment confidence, serious doubt cast on our investability, again, on the physical land base, and no coherent strategy from this government to turn that around. Those are all the preconditions for getting a fiscal rebalance in order for this province that would restore confidence from rating agencies and make sure that our high quantity of debt doesn't also become more expensive debt as our borrowing costs go up.
I watched Brenda Bailey, and I've interviewed her twice, and I watched her say, just prior to releasing the budget, I think a couple of weeks out, saying everybody's going to hate her. This is going to be a budget of austerity, and it's going to be a tough one. And then I watched her afterwards, after she delivered the budget in a business. I think she was in a business setting there. I think that maybe the Vancouver Board of Trade or whatever. And she said that she had a tough time convincing her NDP cabinet that you have to generate revenue before you can do more taxation. Did you think she had a tougher budget and she just couldn't? They wouldn't allow any of the cuts?
I get the sense that she's got a real disconnect with the premier. I think look, John Horgan fired David Eby from Treasury Board when he was premier. Clearly, this is not a premier who has a whole lot of fiscal acumen or who has a focus on financial management. I don't know what Brenda Bailey might have put forward, but that quote that you mentioned was at the Board of Trade. It was actually shortly before the budget came out. I was there in that room. And I was sufficiently shocked by that quote that I think one of the reasons people know that she said that was because I wrote it down and I brought it back to her in question period, because I think it is really stunning when you have a finance minister who is freely admitting that her caucus, her cabinet, perhaps her premier do not understand that you have to grow the economy before you can redistribute wealth. I think that David Eby just thinks that money grows on trees, or that taxing business doesn't ultimately end up hitting consumers. There is a serious lack of basic fiscal and economic acumen at the top levels of this government.
I would like to say just openly too, we invite Brenda Bailey back on. I have interviewed her twice. We'd like to hear from you directly, Miss Bailey, on your thoughts on this budget and the downgrades. And we don't want to monopolize you. I know you got something at 10, but I do want to ask you, you held a Rutland Town Hall. You had a couple hundred people there. Maybe just give us a quick recap of what went on in the Rutland Town Hall.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. We had about 200 people at a town hall, and before that, we did a roundtable with about 20 small business folks from Rutland. Obviously, there's been a spotlight over the last number of months on the challenges hitting downtown Kelowna in terms of public safety, and I wanted to make sure that Rutland was heard and that Rutland wasn't forgotten, because especially over the last few years, That is a community that has seen really serious challenges. Part of that is as a result of a number of low barrier facilities, as well as a new social development office moving into the neighborhood and becoming magnets for individuals who are experiencing addiction, homelessness, and sometimes mental health challenges as well. But this is a community, Jim, that has absolutely had it. We had folks standing up and talking about their experiences, feeling, I think, a real sense of loss of control over the public realm that their taxpayer dollars are paying for. Having to sweep the playground for needles and drug paraphernalia before their kids can play, having to ask people openly smoking drugs right outside the fence of a childcare facility to leave so that children can play in peace without being exposed to that, having to explain what's happening on the streets to their children, having to uh, have their children walk the long way to school or drive their kids to school because they cannot safely walk in their own neighborhoods, having to ask people to leave their front yards when they're using drugs openly at 5 in the morning and having somebody come back and stick a knife in the fence outside their front door or stick drug needles deliberately arranged to prick them in their mailboxes or defecate in their yards, burn materials in their yards, burn down their bus shelters. People are absolutely frustrated and they've had it, Jim. So I wanted to make sure I gave people the opportunity to talk about what they're experiencing. I wanted to be able to gather those stories, and I'm going to take them back to the legislature and continue to push the provincial government to take action because the root cause of many of these issues can only really be addressed by upstream government, provincial and federal. So I'm tired of people pointing at every other level of government. The province has a significant role to play in this, and we need policy change.
The comments are flooded for questions with you, but I know you don't have time. I know you got a 10 o'clock going on too. And we'll bring you back and then you can answer some more questions. But Iain, do you have any last questions here for Gavin before we let him go?
I've got one more, yeah. I just want to pick up on something that you said earlier. You're by no means the only one that says this, but you're here, so I'm going to ask you. You say David Eby's doomed. He's on his way out. I was just wondering and I assume that's based on evidence as well, because you know lots of people in politics and Victoria and all the rest of it. Do you have any idea of a timeline? Do you have any idea how it would happen? And also, are you a little bit concerned that it might happen or Eby might call an election before you get a leader? Because you're leaderless right now, so you're kind of in a weakened state right now.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, Ian, I think we're in a very solid position as a caucus right now. Trevor Halford's been doing an impeccable job as interim leader, and our caucus has been very strong and very unified over the course of the spring session. I think that David Eby would be very foolish to try to call an election right now, and I think he would be punished by the electorate for doing so in the middle of our leadership transition, for doing so at a time where there is huge public concern about DRIPA, Cowichan, land title, and those issues, and he has not brought forward any solutions, any legislation, any changes. I think David Eby would be committing political suicide if he tried to call an election right now. I think there is a distinct probability that once we finish our leadership process, which will end on May 30th, what I would expect is one of two things. Either David Eby will try to cling to power by dropping an election shortly after that, or his caucus, his party will conclude that he is not in a position to continue leading them based on polling numbers, based on his loss of momentum, based on his floundering performance in the legislature. You can look across the aisle and you can see people rolling their eyes that are in his caucus. So I think it's fair to say that he has lost traction even with his own caucus, his own supporters. And that, frankly, is a recipe for the end of a premiership. I think it's just a question of when that happens, and is it a dignified exit, or does it come down to a difficult standoff with his caucus? But there is no question that serious conversations are happening within the NDP over who is going to be the next leader of their party. There's open speculation around numerous cabinet ministers assembling leadership teams. There are senior cabinet ministers who are going out of their way, it seems, to establish some distance. from a premier whose popularity is collapsing. That's all part of a predictable pattern. And it's really just a matter of time until there's a new leader of the NDP. The reality is that a new leader will own the record of this government. They will own 9 years of failure. They will own 9 years of dysfunction. They will own the fiscal state we're in, the public safety crisis, the healthcare crisis. They can try to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic, but I think the people of British Columbia are done with this government and they're ready for something new.
Well, we do thank you for your time, Gavin. As always, you're quick to respond. And when is Al Bundy Day in the House there?
Oh man, I'm never gonna live down wearing a hoodie once, Jim. I will just say this: when I got home the day of Hoodiegate, my wife had bought me a new blue sweatsuit, so I can be head to toe on brand. The next time that I am accidentally wearing a sweatsuit, if I have to vote. So at least it's been funny. We've kind of leaned into it. But just in final conclusion, there's serious issues hitting the province. We lost 20,000 jobs last month. We've just seen another credit downgrade. For the Premier of British Columbia to occupy his time worrying about my hoodie is a worrying sign of exactly where his head is at, and it's another reason that it can't be soon enough that David Eby gets to wear his own orange hoodie in retirement.
Again, thank you, Gavin. And Brenda Bailey, we welcome you on the show, and we look forward to you appearing here. And we're going to get back to the really big show again, Gavin. Thank you.
Thanks, Gavin.
Always a pleasure. See you guys.
Very kind of Mr. Dew to jump in there. And
I thought he was saying something else there. Raised my eyebrows, went to the back of my head there when he said orange hoodie. I was thinking, is he talking about prison, Guantanamo Bay?
No,
It was obviously the NDP.
The NDP colors, I believe.
Just in case anyone else was thinking that.
Yeah, I don't think he was going there. We were on the uranium story, though. We were back at the uranium story, and again, another asset of Canada, uranium, Cameco there, and the Denison, and a bunch of other ones in Saskatchewan there. And it seems like Canada had this anti-nuclear strategy for a long time too, and BC, no nuclear strategy. That's part of the whole BC government as well. You can't have even a nuclear warship can't even come park in the harbor, and no nuclear energy at all. But Canada is building one. I mean, they got that one in Darlington there that they're doing, but it's expected to be the first grid scale SMR operating in a G7. But Cameco with Westinghouse and Brookfield are building 8 in the United States. Such clean, and I've done a lot of work on uranium as well, is clean, reliable base load energy. It's one of the best base load energies, and it's come a long way from the old 3 Mile Island stuff too, and they're starting up a lot more in the United States. China, I mean, I don't even know how many they have there. They launch. They have everything going on. I mean, China has a different strategy. It's like there's like let's try this, let's try everything at once. Like Iain said previously, they'll literally burn the earth or grind up pandas to generate electricity, and that's what's given them. They've moved their economy from basically a farm economy, poverty, to one of the most technically like some of their cities, like I can't say the city right. Shenzhen is like one of the most. It's a technology marvel there in that city, and they've done a lot of those cities, and it all comes from energy. Everything comes from energy. Like if anybody says anything else on that, they're fooling themselves. It doesn't come from grinding up unicorns and trying to stuff a rainbow into a bottle and then rubbing it and hoping something comes out the other end.
Those unicorn turbines, we haven't invented them yet, have we?
No. But if you could find a unicorn, you could probably sell it for something. I don't know. But Pierre Poilievre also putting out this tweet here before we get into the big Pierre Poilievre stuff. And this isn't rocket science. This is just truths that are sitting there. They've been sitting there forever. Like Iain said, they've been sitting there on the shelf. And it's policy and weak leadership. that have not allowed us to tap it. $31 billion annually and 112,000 new jobs if we just boosted pipeline capacity. Just that. Just think if I think Daniel Smith said it the other day, we're going to build a pipeline north, one south, one east, one west. They should all start congruently. They should all start right now. Like, we can't wait 2 years. I think it was, they said that yesterday. There was a story, a company said, like, we can't wait 2 years. 2 years is too long just to wait for approvals. The Major
PC,
Projects Office has done, as Julie Daberson says, that's what they've done so far. Zero so far. Zero. So far, zero. It's all there. All the riches are right there. And that's what Moody's is saying too. BC has the potential. And, that question you asked, I could have answered it better than Gavin, I think. That question you asked, BC not so bad when you compare it to some other countries and some other provinces and that. Yeah, but if you consider its potential, that's like saying you have Wayne Gretzky in his prime on your team, and you say to him, like, man, you're not scoring goals. Like, you've scored 1 goal in the last 20 games. And he says, yeah, but I'm still better than the 6th defenseman. What are you whining about? He's way below his potential, right? It's the potential of British Columbia. It's being squandered.
Just to spell it out, the Pacific Ocean. I mean, that is, and not just any old bit of the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. A really good bit of it where you've got access, very quick access to all those Pacific Rim countries. It's not just China, but Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. All those countries are growing magnificently. That's where global economics is happening, pretty much.
Yeah, look at the
energy
globe.
Poor. Yeah, look at the globe. They're energy poor, and we're energy rich.
And
it's
we're
a
close
match made in heaven. It's perfect.
We're closer to them than the Americans. You know what I mean? Because the way the globe works, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, parts of America, yeah. But also, we have this other gift, British Columbia specifically, anyway, has this other gift, which is hydropower. So it's in this bizarre, miraculous position like Norway, and it has a very similar economic profile to Norway, and also a very similar population to Norway. But it has hydropower for its own domestic use, although we've talked about how that's not quite working out very well lately through mismanagement. But it has hydropower there, anyway, theoretically. And then it has abundant fossil fuels, which it can then sell. So it doesn't have to use those fossil fuels itself, or not as much. It can sell it like Norway. I mean, there is no reason that BC shouldn't be as well off as Norway, which is, by the way, pretty much the richest country on earth and the happiest, or one of the happiest. There is truly no reason. Because think about it this way. There are all those similarities between BC and Norway, but Norway's trapped in that stagnant continent of Europe. They just can't figure anything out there. So the Norwegians are kind of like handcuffed to this corpse in Europe, whereas BC has access to not just the Pacific Rim and China, but also the United States as well, just there. So it's like, I mean, you couldn't ask for better geography. And it's also beautiful, isn't it? As the license plate tells us.
And there's Wayne Gretzky saying, what are you talking about? I scored more than a defenseman.
I'm doing as well as this random guy in the audience. But what a shame. Really, BC, and BC is like Canada times 10, isn't it? It's like Canada itself is in this great position, but then BC is like, wow, how do you drop that ball? That super grip ball.
Should be British Columbia underneath its squandered potential.
Needless. I mean, it's rather upsetting, isn't it, when you stare at it like that?
Someone said my audio, if there's issues with my audio, is that when I get shouty? Is that when it happens? Or what's the, just let us know what's going on here. Because we're missing $1.6 billion in budget here to have sound people and all that stuff. You are our sound people listening in. The big one, though, that we wanted to talk about today, Pierre Poilievre went on Joe Rogan, and I think I don't know if he broke the internet because it's still Canada, but I think he broke the minds of the legacy media, though. Like, I think he broke them. Some of them may be broken forever in some of the stuff that they They expose their soft underbelly of bias, and they are beyond the pale in some of the analysis that's coming out. Even BBC came out and said, this is how you do it. You are an embarrassment to yourself. And the media have embarrassed themselves to no end because Pierre Poilievre conducted himself in one of the most professional manners ever. Joe Rogan, he's an entertainer. Let's remember who Joe Rogan is. He's got the most watched podcasts, video podcasts on the internet. Like his viewership is bigger than the legacy media in the United States combined. So I mean, Canada doesn't matter compared in that mess there. But he has that much influence. But he's a news. It's not a news. He's an entertainer. We're news entertainment. You know, we offer our opinions. We offer a little bit of humor, and we offer you some of the news in a way that's kind of different than most people offer it. But Joe Rogan is an entertainer, and he brings things to light, things that people want to talk about. He's an important figure in media, maybe one of the most important figures in media, and he should be treated with respect as well. But if you watch some of the stuff that they're doing, it's an embarrassment to Canada. They've embarrassed themselves and embarrassed Canada. Poilievre went on there, and even Joe Rogan was looking for some laughs. He dished out a few things. One of the things was on Trudeau's possibility that Fidel Castro was his dad and stuff like that. But Mark Carney played it. Pierre Poilievre played it straight and narrow. And, he talked about things like Magna Carta, Canada-US relationships, Donald Trump, lifting weights, martial arts, because both love to lift weights. Joe Rogan's big into health. I'm big into health. And Mark Carney has gone. I mean, he literally, we're going to show you a clip. Mark Carney went on Jon Stewart and announced his leadership on a foreign station, foreign show. And he spoke to how many people, most of the liberals go on CNN. They go on Jon Stewart and all that kind of stuff. And here's Pierre Poilievre.
Remember what Carney is? I think Carney, I haven't actually added it up, but this is just based on loose memory, but I think it's true. Carney's given more big, serious interviews, like proper interviews, to foreign media outlets than
by far.
Canadian ones.
By far. He's only given two in Canada, like 2 sit-downs.
They are not in a position to say a word about this. And also, if they want to try and say, oh, Joe Rogan's a bit out there, you shouldn't be speaking to Joe Rogan. Jon Stewart is hardly squeaky clean, is he?
No.
And you sat down and had a chat with him. The Economist, The Economist is pretty sort of dull, a lot of people would say, like pretty run-of-the-mill liberals, but they've said and done some stupid things as well. Like, nobody's squeaky clean. But you were talking about Joe Rogan's success, and I just feel like we should say it. The reason he's so successful is because he is the exact opposite of CBC, CTV, and all these people who nobody wants to watch anymore. That's why he's successful. And I was looking at I was watching the CBC at issue thing where they were talking about it, and they were just going on. It's like lots of misinformation and conspiracy theories, and so it's like that's why people are watching Joe Rogan and not you. That's it in a nutshell. Because Joe Rogan is an honest conversationalist. That's what he is. He's actually interested in the subject, and he's interested in the person he's talking to, which is not true of CBC, which is interested in the revolution. It's always the bloody revolution, isn't it, with them? It's always pushing some angle. They always want to achieve some political end. And people are just bored of that because it is boring. So just thought I would emphasize that.
Here's one where this is one in Pierre Poilievre where Joe Rogan tries to, because he's a comedian, right? I mean, he was a stand-up comic as well, right? So that's part of his thing. Instead of them recognizing they go controversial figure, absolute clown show. But let's listen on this.
Unlike the guy that said America deserved 9/11. Bear in mind, he's not controversial. You just have to remember that. You've always got to look at the alternative. Somebody from the far left, and like a left-wing nutcase. He's not even controversial. He's just a political commentator and streamer. Joe Rogan, some people refer to him as far right, but you've lost your mind if you think that. He's a liberal from the 1990s. So if that's far right, then you've got some problems. But I don't think of him as being particularly political in any way. He's very inconsistent. He's not like a political activist. He's just like a normal bro, and he's like a normal dude. But anyway, he gets the controversial tag. So not the far left lunatic that thinks America deserved 9/11, rambles on about Israel all the time, electrocutes his dog or something like that. I mean, I haven't actually looked at that, but I've seen that he's been accused of doing that. Right, he's not controversial. Joe Rogan, on the other hand. I mean, come on. How transparent do you want to be? It's like, who are you fooling? Who's fallen for that now?
Well, Rachel Gilmore and the Charlie Angus's and all the nut jobs out there for sure.
Well, they are on the same team as the aforementioned far left lunatic, aren't they? They're soldiers in the revolution, so obviously they're going to say that. And
I can't remember that other one, the one that just screams into the screen about getting guns and attacking people.
The Babcock.
Yeah, that one. Holy cow, that one. Well, I don't even want to make fun of her because she might need a mental health check.
You might find her on your doorstep tomorrow if you talk about it too much.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything negative about you. Just stay in your area. Stay where you are. But for Joe Rogan, I remember him when he was on news radio. He was the janitor / handyman on news radio. Then he was a stand-up comedian. Then I remember on Fear Factor, and obviously his big claim to fame is UFC. And then obviously his podcast. And you know what really catapulted Joe Rogan to stardom? CBC and CNN and MSNBC, when they tried to cancel him over ivermectin and all that stuff. When they tried to cancel him, I think his numbers doubled. They worked as hard as they could to get Spotify to cancel his podcast. They went after Joe Rogan en masse, and I think that was the peak of cancel culture. And Joe Rogan fought back and says, I don't care. Him and Elon Musk, when they stood there and they said, you want to advertise with me? GFY.
By the way, sorry, I forgot. But I have to interrupt before I forget again. But one of the CBC contributors on that ad issue, when she was listing all of the sins committed by Joe Rogan, said, and he's interviewed Elon Musk. I mean, it was like, what? You're talking about like you're talking about our era's greatest industrialist.
The most consequential man on this planet.
Like, oh.
That's what I mean. They're beyond. They are beyond.
That's why nobody watches that.
They are beyond the pale. If you have anybody that still watches CBC and CTV and Global, do them a favor and just say, you need to turn it off. Just detox yourself. Get away from it. You gotta stop. Bring them to the really big show. We can fix Canada if you can get them off of that mind meld. They're watching, basically, they're being mind warped.
But it's not a happy world. It's not a happy place to be.
Miserable.
It's not a happy way to be either. Because it's all of this it's this constant angst and this constant need to lecture people and make them conform to your worldview. And I would just like to contrast that sort of hectoring attitude where it's like, oh, but he's interviewed Elon Musk. Oh, you don't agree with Elon Musk, do you? Like that sort of attitude. Contrast that to Joe Rogan, who said in this podcast early on, he said, we've mentioned already that Justin Trudeau is the son of Fidel Castro. He said that. And in the past, I think he's kind of he's taken that somewhat seriously in the past. He said that, and then Pierre Poilievre just said, nah, that's not true. And then started to talk about Pierre Poilievre. Started to talk about Pierre Trudeau, his actual father. And it was just these two blogs had a disagreement about something that we're supposed to believe Joe Rogan's really serious about. They had a disagreement, and they didn't care. They just kept chatting and laughing, and they were happy. You have to contrast that to the equivalent on somewhere like CBC or something, where a guest refuses to go along with a statement. Like CBC's equivalent of Fidel Castro's Justin Trudeau's dad, sort of thing. If the guest refuses to go along with that, they get a spanking, don't they? They get finger wagged, and then they get labelled, and it's like, we can't be speaking to you. Like you are beyond the pale. And I just want to sort of point that out. It's a much happier way to be, to just have a normal conversation. Somebody might disagree with you. It's not a big deal. It's okay. You can then talk about maple syrup or whatever they moved on to after that. It's fine. Just have a conversation.
We're going to play this one clip here for you where they ask, well, they were basically trying to get, he was baiting him to criticize Mark Carney. This one here.
Hey, listen, if the government that's in power now steals all my ideas and does the things I want to do, then I've won. Because that's why I came here. I didn't just do it so that I could have my name on the door. So I keep saying to the Prime Minister, steal my ideas.
Right. But he doesn't want to.
Well, I won't criticize him on foreign soil. I
understand.
But
good for you.
Yeah, I mean, we have a mutual respect.
That's such a Canadian thing to do.
That is a very Canadian thing to do.
So polite.
You know,
that's what I've said about Canadians. They're so polite.
Hey, listen, if the government that's in power...
Rogan's sporting some guns there too, eh?
Yeah, that was quite interesting. But talk about interesting, and I've said all that about how I respect Joe Rogan and pointing out why it is that he's a success. I would say the last hour or so of that interview, that's an hour I'm never going to get back. I'm sorry to say. I will never retrieve that lost hour where they do like a UFC, history of UFC 101. It's just all they talk about. It's like, oh, do you know this guy? It's like, oh yeah, I went to his gym in Montreal. Oh, but do you know this guy? Yeah, because he's really good with his jiu-jitsu. I was just like, sorry to say, we're gonna watch the viewership collapse here because I know people get sensitive about UFC, but I'm not. That's not my cup.
We're gonna show you in contrast.
We talked about that relentlessly there, and that's the other side of the coin of having like an open and free conversation. Sometimes you can just go and go and go on some of that. Isn't that interesting, in my opinion, anyway.
We're going to show you in contrast Mark Carney with Jon Stewart when asked to attack Pierre Poilievre.
Poilievre seems like a villain in a Karate Kid movie. Like there's something very, very off-putting. What is he like in person?
Karate.
Take your time.
You're not far off. I'll say this.
Yes.
There is a type of politician. You have a few of them here in the United States. I think we just
Stop it.
Yeah. They had a lot in and around Brexit.
Yes.
And we have Mr. Poilievre. In Canada, a type of politician who's, tend to be a lifelong politician.
Really?
Tend to worship the market. They've never actually worked in the private sector.
Right.
And they see opportunity in tragedy, like you just had with the California fires, these horrible fires.
Correct.
And they see opportunity in tragedy to push an agenda that, here's one they prepared earlier,
right.
and they fit it in. And so whether it was Brexit, here often, the starve the beast type approach. So Pierre Poilievre, when COVID started, his reaction was, this is a good time to cut spending and cut taxes. Everyone's just been pushed out of a job. Nobody's got work. So let's cut the taxes on the work they don't have, and let's take away the social safety net when everybody's vulnerable.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did that work out for you? Were people out of their
fortunately,
home?
he was in opposition. So.
Oh, that was his idea.
That was his idea. Yeah.
And the people now see the headwinds for this more right-wing populism, though, are all around the world, and it feels like Canada is no different there. I mean, did Trudeau bow out because he knew he wouldn't win? Is this an attempt to give the Liberal Party there a chance?
I think it does give the Liberal Party a chance, yes.
Right. And he did that.
On the other hand there, if the opportunity showed up like that, where you got, here's the bait, Mark Carney didn't just take the bait. He grabbed the fishing rod out of his hand and just went to town.
Jumped into the boat himself.
He got the brush out. And he's starting to tar. He got some feathers out, and he's just and of course the lunatic audience there is just and then of course then he's egged on by the applause, and he's just like.
But also such an immensely low grade analysis of Donald Trump, who was mentioned not by name but sort of alluded to.
Yeah,
Nigel
Farage, they smeared him.
The European populists. That was just, he just displays his I'm sorry to say, but I think he displays his ignorance there. And Jon Stewart as well, who is a very smart and funny man sometimes, but also a bit of a know-nothing in other ways. But
Well,
to put all those people in the same basket, Nigel Farage, or just the entire Brexit squad. So I guess that would include Dominic Cummings, Michael Gove, people like that. To put them in the same basket with Donald Trump and then Pierre Poilievre and say, yep, all these people, they belong in the same. I mean, there's very little that they have in common. I mean, that is an astonishingly facile thing to say. And just, I know this was ages ago and that was whatever. We've had time to look at this, but I just think sometimes he comes out with just such
character is
such
character,
cheap
though. Yeah.
crap.
Character is character, though, and typically the characteristics are common throughout a person's life. And these characteristics that he exhibited there, because there was misinformation as well, tons of misinformation on Pierre Poilievre. And even the policies he's talking about, which actually led to inflation in Canada, like he's like kind of championing what Trudeau did. He's championing what Trudeau did, like blocked you in your home and then just flooded the system with money that so many people cheated with, and they're still going after these people now. The people that don't have any money, the CRA is still going after all these people on CERB and everything. And yet it's Pierre Poilievre is painted like Donald Trump, and they're of course in that audience, Donald Trump to that audience, and Jon Stewart is the devil. And I would say if Joe Rogan is not a political activist, that he would be a centrist, even left of center, whereas Jon Stewart was a comedian and is basically full-on political activist. Because if you notice, all the liberals from Canada go on Jon Stewart. It's basically like paid promotion.
Jon Stewart is a part of the Democratic machine, really, for sure. Yeah. Whereas Joe Rogan, obviously, you could say endorsed Trump and all the rest of it, and then Poilievre just now. Still, he's not really quite part of the machine. He's still a bit more of a sort of free thinker, and he's willing to move away from, the rules of the party and things like that. And he's not like watching his language and trying to enforce social rules and things like that. He's not doing that kind of thing. And also, like I said, I say it again, it's still true. He's a liberal from 1996 or something like that. That's what Joe Rogan is. So if you're looking at him and you're thinking, oh, this far right dude, I don't know, maybe ask, like, if he's far right and it's all a question of perspective after all, where are you? If you see him as far right, a liberal from 1996, where does that make you? Where are you standing?
Joe Rogan invited Kamala Harris on as well because Trump was on there. And I guarantee you that he's going to reach out to Mark Carney, or already has. And I can almost guarantee you Mark Carney will not sit down for 3 hours with Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan does not allow you to send the questions in ahead of time, or he won't send you the questions. And
Joe Rogan is a very agreeable person, though, usually. Obviously, sometimes he has a go at people. And there's been a few little, awkward moments during his podcast in history. But he's an extremely agreeable person. So if you go there and you're just like open and honest,
tell
and
the truth, it's just
stories,
easy.
Yeah. So I think it's possible to play it right. And I would say as well, just to talk about Poilievre in general, they spoke about fighting a lot, like martial arts and boxing and stuff like that. And I thought that was very interesting because the obvious metaphor that I sort of left that with is thinking Pierre Poilievre fought a very sort of clever fight. He went in there with a strategy and he sort of won on points kind of thing. He's very, like, he was defensive when he needed to be, and he opened up when he needed to be. Like, he was very defensive on, obviously, Fidel Castro thing, and then there was, like, something about food where he tried to get him to say stuff about food that might have been a bit controversial, and certain, like, drugs and things. They talked about MAID, I think, didn't they? And COVID and all sorts of things.
Oil and gas.
Yeah. He played a really smart game, and he dodged all the punches, and he landed a few himself, like where he obviously rehearsed in the mirror that thing about Donald Trump, where he's like, I wish he would stop doing that and being angry. I think he had a plan. I think he had like a game plan. You can say what you want about that, whether you think that's cheeky or whatever. But I think he really he strategized there, and I don't think Joe Rogan wasn't exactly trying to put him on the spot and get him to say anything, but Joe Rogan didn't succeed if he was trying to do that. I think Poilievre, it all seemed, it was like a crack. Sometimes when a fighter, like a boxer, wins a match, and it's almost like a work of art. It's almost like the performance in its entirety is like a great sculpture or something. It's this perfectly crafted response to what was happening. Everything was mapped out and planned. That's kind of what it was like. It was like he'd crafted this battle plan, and he just went in there and he said all the right things, none of the wrong things, and then wasted the last hour asking Joe Rogan for UFC History 101. So I just think he took that really seriously. And I suppose if I'm trying to offer any kind of insight there, it's that was not Pierre Poilievre improvising. I really did not get that impression. I think he really thought about that. He really thought about the image he wanted to convey, what he wanted to say, what he didn't want to say.
I would.
So I guess he's, in that sense, you could say he's taken this very seriously. At least that was one positive thing you could say.
I would liken it to an old Molson's beer commercial. I am Canadian, and I think he channeled the best of Canada, and I think he came across as humble and a servant of Canada, and he put Canadian values first, and he put Canada first, and he was also very he didn't disparage the leader of this nation. He played it to very strong old-fashioned values of I am Canadian, and I think you're right, and he crafted it very well, and then also, and I think it came from his heart, and I think that's what makes it easy, because he just spoke. I interviewed him before he became the leader of the Conservative Party, and I got to ask him some questions, even personal questions, and I think there's a value set inside him. Like I said, most people's characteristics remain constant. Doesn't even matter where you put them, in what situations you put them in. And I think his main characteristics, it was a moment where he could actually shine his main characteristics, where he wasn't under attack. I think sometimes in Canadian media, he feels he's always under attack, and he is. I think when he's facing Canadian media, he's under attack. So he has a shield up, and he can't portray the real him. That's why I think long-form podcasts, that's your invitation again, Mr. Poilievre, to come on here. Long-form podcasts are his strength. When you don't tell the truth, and when you have tough time remembering your lies, you don't want to do long-form podcasts. That's why Kamala Harris couldn't do a long-form podcast. That's why she needs to be crafted, and that's why the people, what's her name, Katie, moves you along. Audra moves you along. That's it. Let's go, right? They just want that one question. But even on
the podcast format is it's very good for the opposition, isn't it? The party that wants to be in power, or the politician that wants to be in power, because it lets you be you, and it lets you talk freely and openly and sort of introduce yourself. Whereas there's a lot of risk involved if you actually have power. I think they much prefer to just speak from the podium and have the little media bodyguard come in and say okay.
I've done so many interviews, and most of the time people come in and they haven't done one, and they say, and I say, just relax, just gonna talk. That's it. You're just gonna answer questions, and then when they're done, they're just like, that was great. That was really good. That was easy. Yeah, because if you're just honest, it comes easy. If you have to remember lies and different things and where your positions, it's tough, right? Because you can't remember. I mean, everybody knows that even in their own life. When you start telling lies to your friends and partners, it becomes a web. And it becomes very, very hard to have open communication. We have a little clip here where Poilievre talks about the climate extremism that has really hurt the prosperity of Canada here. Listen to this.
You could be out in a forest hunting, and you wouldn't even know that under your feet they're extracting it through a whole system of pipes where they inject just steam vapor that loosens up the oil. It sinks down, it goes into another pipe, comes up to the top, and you can have beautiful, pristine nature, the bears, the deer, the birds. They don't even know that there's extraction happening under their feet. So we have the best industry, the most responsible industry anywhere in the world. It's been a really disgusting PR campaign by extremist environmentalists and frankly some of our competitors to try and make our industry look bad, but it's the best industry in the world.
Yeah, they got me.
Yeah,
I saw some videos on it. And I was like, oh my God, what are they doing to the ground? What are they doing to the earth? It looks horrible.
They're all. It's all bullshit. We have the.
It looks horrible. Like,
yeah, but I mean, that's just a superficial look at it. I'll take you for a tour in the oil sands. You'll be amazed. We have the best engineers in the world. And by the way, the First Nations people absolutely love it because it's lifting their people out of poverty. They're getting enormous job opportunities out of it.
Climate extremism and the media here in Canada have hurt our prosperity, and that's why we have record lineups in food banks, and half of Canadians now living off their credit cards to buy groceries. And again, policies that benefit the few, and we're going to show you some of those later. We got lots to get through here yet. Policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many, and that is just shameful here in Canada. And here's the one that is going to drive the lunatics crazy. Listen to this. And here's the full endorsement from the guy that has, 110 million followers on X or something? I don't know what his full numbers are, but he's a very influential person. And Elon Musk is likely going to watch this too, so he might get another plug, another boost. Listen to this clip here.
do well, do good for the people. And I think your message resonates with me.
Thank you.
And if I was a Canadian, I would vote for you 100%.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, it's...
Do well, do good for the people.
Well, there you go. And we say that here. Where's the work for the people? And that we need politicians that work for the people. And I said that, like, why is the NDP sticking up for Nicolas Maduro that has driven his population into poverty? 8 million have fled that nation. He's oppressed. I mean, so the violations that he's done on people, human rights violations he's done on people, and the NDP screaming to have him reinstalled as the dictator that had a bounty on his head put on by the Democratic president as well. And then also the communist dictatorship of Cuba, Iran, get your hands off Iran. The atrocities killing up to 40,000 people or more in the streets, slaughtering them because they protest. These are the people. Policies should be for the people. People need to recognize that vote. You are the most powerful person in Canada. And right now, we have a government that does not respect you or the vote. And we need to change that here in Canada. You must matter. And that's why, like for us, we answer to you. Like without you, we don't have anything. It'll just be me and Iain talking into the wind. And so we rely on, and CBC doesn't have that. They don't turn their comments on. They don't do anything. They get $1.6 billion. They get a viewership of 1.6. We're going to probably beat them pretty soon. 1.6 or 1.7% of the population watches CBC. Yet their revenues continue to go up. And their hauteur always about, and we're going to show you some of the
continue to go up.
hauteur. Some of their hauteur. We're going to skip some of this. So let's show this on here, the CBC clip here, and watch some of this hauteur here on CBC here. This one here. Let's play this hauteur.
I mean, I don't want to make too much of optics, but, seeing him there, I'm sure they chose the venue. There he is in New York. There's big American flags flying in the background. Is that the look that Canadians want?
Well, I mean, that's a really interesting question. I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to resonate so well with a lot of people. Are they looking to see their leaders and people who want to be prime minister with American flags in the background?
That's interesting. Okay, Joe Rogan is not a stranger to controversy. He's promoted anti-vax opinions and COVID conspiracy theories. The list is long. So why then
that's
appear?
Enough. I can't even do it. I can't even listen. Like basically they got the label gun out. First thing they did at CBC. So their first thing to do if they don't like somebody is they get out the or the label gun. So they want to make sure that they marginalize the person before he even gets anything to say. Anti-vaxxer, that was a famous one, right? I even told the reporters here in this room, you don't use anti-vaxxer anymore. You stop using that hate term. Anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theory. What other labels did they throw out there? And then the ugh. He did the ugh too, right?
That was pretty low though, even for them to talk about how the American flag as some kind of hate symbol or incendiary or somehow incompatible with Canada. You know, what the hell are you talking about, man?
This
It's still our economy, our quality of life, such as it is, our military defense. That is still all covered by the country represented by that flag. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that you could be hostile to the American flag or think that might be a bit sort of stinky. That might be a fart in the room kind of thing. Talking about the American flag, like, chill out.
I want to say this. CBC represents 1.7% of our population. They do not speak for Canada. If anything, they speak against Canada, and they've done that against Canada. We, on this show, respect the American flag. Respect that we go to sleep every night under the safety and security of the American military machine. We're respectful of the living next door to the largest economy in the world and the leader of Western democracies and freedom in this world. And we live under that umbrella. And we respect that flag, and we respect everybody that respects our flag as well. CBC does not represent the values of Canada, even though they think they do. They are the fringe minority here in Canada, and they don't even know how to tell the truth. They are the information officers for the Liberal Party of Canada. That's all they are right now. That's all they are. And they live in an echo chamber. That's the sad part. All those cabinet ministers and that, they live in that same echo chamber. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you, Diana.
And, anyway, best friends forever. How's that? BFF, Canada and United States. BFF.
I would just say it's not like an idyllic, perfect, beautiful romance, is it? It's not the perfect relationship. Obviously not. And I said it yesterday. I've said it many, many times. You know, we are a part of their empire. That's the reality of it. And if you've read about enough eras of history, I think you can see why I would say that. Empires, we stopped using that word empire, but we didn't stop doing the thing. We didn't stop having empires. And we are part of their empire. And that's the nature of the relationship. And it's not, like I say, it's not perfect. There is bullying involved. There's all kinds of things that aren't good involved. But at the end of the day, you know, it's about as good a relationship as any province has had with the imperial center ever. I mean, rarely has there ever been such a friendly relationship between controller and controlled. So that's the way that I look at it. I mean, I look at it very much in a sort of realistic view, you know, realism, I mean, as in the sort of that way of studying history. But yeah, to talk about it like it's some kind of evil. The other thing with empires is, you know, if you're not in one empire, you're in another one. So the argument shouldn't be, oh, we want to break free and like leave America behind. The argument should be, if you're being honest, we want to leave America and join another empire. Which empire is that then? You know, be honest about it. The European empire, such as it is, the Chinese empire. What's your plan?
I don't know what the plan is, but it doesn't seem to be an honest plan. How's that? It doesn't seem to be an honest plan. But CBC does not speak for Canada. That's I do want to make that point. CBC does not speak for Canada. Most of the journalists in Canada are compromised. They're living off a government scheme. And if you look at the control of media in Canada, we're going to have to rely on the United States of America to free the media in Canada. We're going to have to rely on the United States of America to free the media in Canada. Listen to that. Because they've pointed it out. The Online News Act is suppressing media in Canada. We have too many media outlets relying on the Liberal government. We need to free the media. We need to repeal the Online News Act. You have no safe democracy if you don't have a media that can hold government to account. They refuse to answer to us. They refuse to respond to emails, and we're going to highlight them all. We're going to highlight each and every one of them when they refuse to come on here. Stephen Fuhr, number one here in this local valley, who I know personally. 7 emails from Steve McNall. 0 answers. I've sent them 2, 0 answer. Andrea sent them, 0 answers. Must have a broken computer.
Just busy. He'll get back to you, I'm sure.
Just busy. And then there was a piece done by, and I didn't put the link in, but the BBC, if you put this up here, just this clip here, go ahead, compare BBC's coverage of the event. No, the next one. We showed that one yesterday. BBC did a piece. Maybe you don't have, yeah, BBC did a piece, and I read it. And it was basically what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like the BBC piece was, here's what happened. We went on a podcast, and this is what they talked about. Yeah, there's no link, but and now we just talked about media in Canada at the begging bowl. Now the TV stations are like, hey, can you force Meta to give us money too? It's just like the media in Canada. Some TV station now asks the federal broadcast regulator, the CRTC, to force Meta to pay for news content which appears on Facebook and Instagram. Let's take a failed policy for the last 3 years and let's amp it up even more. It's just like...
And this is from the Canadian Press, by the way. Canada's, I think it describes itself as Canada's oldest news agency. I believe that's its little motto. I mean, it would be better described as Canada's only news agency, really. And that's not, I'm not saying that that's either good or bad. I mean, it's just the truth. It's just, there's not really any diversity in the agency world in Canada. So very important consequence.
I'm sure everybody's seen the legacy media embarrass themselves over the past few days. And I mean, we've seen it in so many different issues. We've seen them, how they act and how they carry themselves. And it's just abysmal here. And that's why this government survived 10 years with Trudeau and is surviving right now. If you look around, everything's worse. And yet here's the federal vote intention right now.
Well, I was actually going to say something there about that.
Go ahead.
Press. I wasn't just listening. I wasn't just saying it's Canada's only news agency. I was just saying that as a sort of preamble to saying they only ever really put out articles in favor of the Online News Act. And I just, something to bear in mind, and this woman who writes all their Online News Act articles, it's the same thing every single time. It's just like somebody moaning about,
no, we don't want that
Facebook
one,
and how great the Online News Act is.
Yeah.
And that's it. And there's no alternative voice. I think the only time that there has been is when they interviewed me. And I don't know, maybe the person that interviewed me like went off the beaten path there, did something she wasn't supposed to do and interviewed me. But yeah, they are just like completely in favor of it. And it's just another example of how weak the media landscape is in Canada, where you have the only news agency. So everyone runs this copy basically across all of Canada. And they're just relentlessly in favor of the Online News Act.
And we tried to interview the editor for CP and was communicating until we asked for the interview, and then that was it. Ghost town. And we were a paid user of CP, and I've sent my I guess discontent with CP for many years to the people that were selling us the product, and they said that they were going to try better. What they never tried better, obviously. They just kept doing whatever they wanted to do. So we stopped using CP because their articles were so biased. I mean, Iain used to rewrite them to try and fix them a little, because that was one of the agreements they made, that we could use files from there and rewrite some of their biased headlines. Anyway, federal vote intention. And it has a difference, though, if you're actually suffering. And Tristan Hopper brought that up. For the people that are, don't have a mortgage and don't live in a high crime area, there's like, this is fine. But the people that are being affected, their poll results are different for sure.
So, such an indictment, really, isn't it? And
yeah.
Something that I would like to think that the Liberals think about and look at and worry about. But this should be seen through or in the context of that conversation we had with Tristan Hopper the other day, where he was talking about how weird Canada is in that the younger generation supports the Conservative Party, whereas the older generation supports the Liberal Party. It's almost always the other way around. And this is why, and also that other story we were looking at yesterday about the happiness ranking, which put young Canadians like 75th in the world or something like that, really far down, whereas older Canadians were much higher. This is the great sort of divide in our society right now. It's the great divide of our era. It's based on what generation you belong to, pretty much. And you have to bear in mind that people more likely to experience financial pressure are younger people, because obviously they don't have savings, they don't have much money, they don't usually have much job experience, so they can't demand high salaries and so on. Property is another thing.
David Coletto from Abacus says early evidence is showing that the survey he just launched is going to favor Pierre Poilievre after that podcast, whereas many of the legacy media are saying it's going to hurt him or it's not going to help him, and it was terrible to go on, talking about picturing himself in front of an American flag. But anyway, that poll comes out next week, so we shall see how that comes out.
I still can't believe that. Still can't believe he said, like, think about the optics of an American flag. I mean, I cannot believe that those words came out of his mouth.
He takes $1.6 billion out of our pockets. That organization takes $1.6 billion out of our pockets. And he thinks he speaks for Canada. They do not represent the voice of Canada. They do not represent the voice of Canada. They are the opposite of the voice of Canada. Why don't they have us on their show? A little bit of hotel.
I'd also say, I mean, just ended my head. I hadn't actually thought of it right away, but you talk about optics. Does that mean, therefore, that the optics were bad? I hate that term, by the way, optics. Do you think it looked bad when Mark Carney was in Donald Trump's golden Oval Office with pictures of George Washington or whatever behind him and fawning over Donald Trump, the man that he says is this great danger who wants to take over Canada and everything? Were those good optics? I mean, what a foolish thing to say. The more I think about it, the lower my opinion is of that.
We're going to go move to the McGinty scandal here. And he's got our friend there, Stephen Fuhr, standing next to him. This is one of the biggest scandals, and yet, because McGinty can't seem to remember which lie he told and when he told it. Let's listen in on McGinty again.
Thank you. Dale Carruthers from the London Free Press. My question is for Minister McGinty. Minister, I want to ask you about the March 1st attack by Iranians on a military base in Kuwait in which Canadian forces were stationed. We just want to clarify when you first learned about this attack.
Thanks for the question. I was first informed about the situation in the Middle East while abroad with the Prime Minister on a global tour in the Indo-Pacific. As a matter of practice, I don't comment, we don't comment for operational security reasons on these kinds of situations. Our first and foremost responsibility is to for the safety and security of the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces. So a decision was made not to comment, and we don't comment. It's also important for us to recall that from the very beginning, Canada was not consulted with.
Yeah. And then he said he didn't find out till the press found out. No, we're not doing the beaver yet. Iain, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm just laughing at the beaver.
The beaver's ready to go because he knows something's coming up. So the beaver's ready. He's like, let me out. The beaver's like, come on, man, I need some cabbage.
He's just eating that cabbage the whole time. While we're on air, every minute of this show, he's just eating that cabbage. We just put the camera on him now and then.
Live feed. But now the National Post put out, Defense Minister backtracks. Now he says he was informed immediately on the strike. Which is it? And then
he also said that he learned about it from La Presse.
Yeah.
The newspaper,
So which is it? Which is it? And then he's blamed it on Pierre because if he had his security clearance, then he would know. So Anita and Ann didn't know till it was asked by the press. Mark Carney didn't know. So who knows? Who runs the show? McGinty. And both of them, they're just smiling. Fuhrer and McGinty both should get fired. And yet they just spin another lie because they know the media there won't hold them accountable. Why don't they come in? Stephen Fuhrer, why don't you come in? Let's have a chat. Let's figure out the timeline. Let's just do the timeline. And then we'll play the videos of when you said this and that and this and that and this and that. Because why can't we have honesty? And how come the Americans, who have the largest military in the world, they do operations update every day?
But also, he's continuing with this ridiculous farce that it was a secret.
Yeah. Worst secret ever.
No, it wasn't a secret. I mean, it wasn't a secret to anyone that matters anyway. The only people that you would want to keep that secret from are your enemies or potential enemies, and they all have satellites, you mug. As you know, of course you know this. They've got satellites. They take pictures all the time. So they knew that base had been hit probably before you did. Of course they knew. What are you talking about? But also, anyway, the name of the base is the Ali Al Salem base in Kuwait. Just type that into x.com. You can even type it into Google and go to the news tab, and right away you see 2 weeks ago, story in Al Jazeera showing an explosion at the Ali Al Salem base. Go on X and there's loads. You go on X and there are satellite pictures on X. That's the OSINT stuff I was talking about. This is no military secret. To pretend that this is some kind of operational security issue is completely absurd. He is spitting in your face. He thinks that you are so stupid if you buy this. He thinks you are just so dumb. Like, talk about hauteur. He can't even see you. You're out of his field of vision because you're so far beneath him. This is such a ridiculous thing to say. And again, not for the first time, and I would say almost certainly not for the last time, we're all being insulted by a Liberal minister. And do you like that? People out there, Liberal supporters, do you like to be insulted? Do you like it when the people in charge of you think that you're a moron? Does that make you feel good?
They count on your stupidity. And the media either play into it or are complicit, or they are stupid. I don't know. Defend yourself, media. Are you stupid? Are you complicit?
So stupid they don't even do it. Don't type it into X.
Yeah.
Don't type in the name of the base into X. You will see.
What they do is what they do. They're standing there and they're just like, okay, so what was the problem? Oh yeah, Pierre Poilievre. Okay, write that down, Pierre Poilievre, and then call that in.
Oh, yeah.
Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre's to blame. That's it. That's what it is. Yep, got it.
And this as well, flipping around all over the place where he's saying, oh yeah, I was told by a newspaper. Hold on, no. Actually, I knew already. And I didn't mean that. I didn't mean what I just said. Come on, man.
Now, I think we already covered that. That's covered. But now, let's break out the beaver. Ready? Ready for the beaver? Or should we do the beaver first? Just give it a little taste for the beaver. Because up next to the microphone is our friend, Gary and the Sangria. I don't know if I pronounced that right. He's going to defend
the Sangria.
And yes, here's Gary saying why they need to look in your cell phone. Let's go, Gary. I wonder if we could have the beaver do the voice optics. Let's go, Gary.
We are in an era where we have smartphones. With our phones, we have so much information that's available to us. Every desktop computer and every technology out there have significant abilities, not just to communicate, but also to deter those who use crime as a tool to be able to conceal information that will be critically important for law enforcement. Our laws are stuck in a century, while technology has essentially moved forward. So we are.
I'm glad he clarified cell phones for me, the smartphones, phones, stuff in there.
Some people just have that verbal fluency, don't they? It's remarkable when you like William F. Buckley, Christopher Hitchens, Gary and Andy Sangari. They can just speak, and it's like they speak in these beautiful, fully formed sentences. You know, the grammar is immaculate. Semicolons, brackets, it's all there, and they just pronounce cleanly, crisply. You've got to be impressed by that.
And Gary not worried about criminals with guns, but Gary more worried about you with a gun. The Supreme Court yesterday agreed to hear gun owners challenge the public safety minister's blacklisting of assault-style rifles. Two lower courts upheld the ban as reasonable, though it was introduced without data showing it would help fight crime. The court, in a notice, accepted a final appeal by the Canadian Coalition of Firearms Rights and co-plaintiffs. No hearing date set as yet. The Department of Public Safety in 2022 testimony at the Commons Public Safety Committee said it had no data showing the regulations will reduce gun crime. I'm seriously hopeful that it will. And that's from Tala Dakalaba, Assistant Deputy Minister. The Minister Gary, Enda Sangria, in confidential remarks recorded by a constituent made public last September 21 by Canadian Coalition of Firearms Rights, said regulations were intended to help 43 Liberal MPs facing re-election in Quebec, and still has his job. Still has his job. Let's have the beaver. That guy still has his job. And the beaver still has his job. What's that?
I just love how he scoops them up. I love that one. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Supposedly watching the beaver calms your nerves. We may have to make him the mascot of the show, because like all the stuff that we show here, we may need the beaver on a
But it's not really fair on beavers though, because beavers are like extraordinary animals. They're so industrious and they're so brave.
That's why they're
in a very dangerous ecosystem, and they just go and they work so hard, and they're so good as well. So they're industrious and they're highly competent, very, very efficient as well. They build their lodges and dams very quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's not really fair on beavers, that is it?
I remember when I was working at the mine site, somebody put a poster up in the site there and wanted a bounty on beavers because they were causing some problems. And I tore it down. I said, you do not have a bounty on a beaver. No bounties on beavers.
Beavers are our friends.
No beaver bounties.
Very important for the environment, aren't they?
You didn't get on the nickel for nothing.
Well, beavers build Canada, as we've had that conversation before, haven't we?
That's right. An anti-vaccine mandate nursing organization is calling for the Supreme Court justice to be recused. I mean, we did this story a while back, him basically saying, he's biased in this for sure. So he needs to recuse himself, this justice, because might as well just stamp it then. Do one or the other.
That's Richard Wagner, isn't it? That's the Chief Justice.
The Department of Justice seizes Iranian intelligence websites behind the $250,000 beheading bounty on a Canadian politician, and the cartel direct to kill her at her Ottawa home. This is a Facebook post, and that's Goldie Garmani there, and she was the.
This is a proper nut story. This is Sam Cooper at the Bureau. Really crackers story, and it's not even. I don't think this is really an exclusive. He's just like the only journalist that's put two and two together, which tells you a lot. Like, freely available information, and he's the only one in Canada that's bothered to do it. So, credit to him as usual.
And
but
who
this
found,
is really bleak because it's about.
Was it CSIS?
No. Yeah, no, it's the Americans. Yeah, but this is about like Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the revolutionary nutbags in Iran, putting out a bounty for the New Generation cartel in Mexico, saying use your people in Canada that you've got to saw off the head of this former Ontario MPP in her home and record it on video, and then we'll give you 250 grand. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
This is so extraordinary, you know.
Meanwhile,
This
Gary
is,
says
terrible.
in committee there that one IRGC has been sent home so far, and that he believes in the process when questioned by Vasi Kapelas on CTV. Gary, why don't you come on this show? We'll let you pet the beaver while you're on the show. We'll let you actually pet the beaver.
We'll just leave it on full time. You can have access to it.
4 websites run by the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and Security were seized and taken down by the U.S. Department of Justice. That actually had a former Ontario Progressive Conservative MP, MPP Goldie, targeted. Not CSIS, the Department of Justice. You know, the ones where that CBC journalist is like, an American flag. Can you believe it?
Yeah, when this is happening, like.
But we rest comfortably.
She was an Ottawa MPP as well, so it's literally happening right down the road from where all these people live. You know, all these political correspondents.
And then this is, and that was Premier Ford removed Goldie from the Conservative caucus because of her ongoing criticism of Islamists and her association with those who thought the same way.
And I think the reason that they were upset, apparently, the Iranian revolutionaries, the Iranian government, the reason they were upset is because she went on Piers Morgan's like YouTube show or whatever. You know, this is extraordinary, isn't it? Like, to think that this woman is so, you know, vulnerable to this international network of insane people. Like, she does an interview with somebody in London, in England, talking about a country thousands of miles away, Iran. Then the government of that country puts up a bounty and talks to Mexican gangsters, Mexican drug lords, and says, use your operatives in Canada to kill this woman. You know, this is terrible. And her crime, like I said, I can't sort of emphasize it enough. Her crime is words, speaking. Like, this is tragic. And yeah, as you said, I mean, you're right to make a point out of that. The Americans are the ones that have nailed these people, not our guys.
Sure, not Gary. He's got 1 deportation to his name. 1. If we want to have safety in Canada, that's the public safety minister. Gary needs to be fired. Like, come on, Mark Carney. Fire him. For the good of Canada.
And what if one of these is pulled off? What if they succeed and they actually do kill a serving or former politician in this country? Would Gary then be fired? I'm not convinced he would be, actually. You know, this is... if you want to read more on this kind of thing and, you know, depress yourself and into the abyss, then go on Sam Cooper's website, The Bureau. He finds things like this all the time, and it's like, you know, it'll make the blood rush out of your face.
Gregor Robertson saying, hold my beer. Buy Canadian. Yeah, not literal. You know, just, you know, it's a slogan. Cabinet's Buy Canadian policy does not mean the majority of supplies in the public works or home construction must be Canadian. That's from Housing Minister Gregor Robertson. We're not being rigid about it. It's a suggestion. On the Buy Canadian, that's for the CBC and the liberal lunatics that makes you go into the store and start screaming about it. And they're going to get that kicking into gear this year. If it was a real policy, why does it take a year to kick it in? You know what I mean? Like, isn't it simple?
Doesn't take a year to announce it, though, does it? And make, like, promotional material with those words written on it. That doesn't take a year.
And then he's saying, across government, it will vary. You know, we're not going to be very rigid on this because there are many supply chains we need to improve. So it's mostly for optics. Optics, you like that word, don't you? Optics. Canada is on a mission to build Canada strong. That's from Mark Carney. He announced that on September 5th. We'll implement that Buy Canada policy, which will ensure Canadian materials, including steel and lumber, are prioritized in all contracts over $25 million. And then there's Gregor saying, well, hey, whoa. It's a suggestion. Nice, eh?
Very nice.
And we had Joseph Barbuto on yesterday from the Economic Long Wave and talking about the economic winter Canada's in. And he talks about housing as being a big part of it. And housing, there's a lot of trouble in Canadian housing right now. And like a lot of trouble in Canadian housing. You know, like they're not lowering the interest rates. We got a lot of people resetting their mortgages at a higher rate. We got inventory that's not selling. And there's a lot of reasons that it could get worse before it gets better. And they go off and list many of these things. And obviously people are sitting on the hand. One of those big things is certainty, right? Like there's no certainty in Canada right now. And I think that is one of the biggest things in Canada. No certainty. So why would anybody invest right now? And until we get certainty back in Canada, and for certainty, we need honest politicians that tell us the way it is. And we need a year later. We don't have a pipeline decision. We don't have a pipeline decision. Maybe there is a decision that's made, but they don't want to share the decision. And why wouldn't they share the decision? That's the other question then. Is there a pipeline or isn't there a pipeline? We don't know. But we know that nothing's got done. All the 12, they named 12 projects at the major projects office. Then they took one off because one was just a nuisance, almost like a generator. And they got 11. And of those 11, this many have moved forward. How many is that? I don't know. How do you do that? Zero.
There was a really good tweet. I've been trying to find it today, but I can't find it, so I can't give credit to whoever tweeted it. But I thought it was very apt based on what you were talking about. And it's Canada is like a homeless man handcuffed to a briefcase full of cash, but he can't find the key.
Exactly. Or better yet, you got 100,000 Bitcoin at a dime. You went to one of the first Bitcoin seminars, and you can't remember the code.
It's locked in the hard drive.
You have billions and billions and billions of dollars, and for the life of you, you can't remember the code to get into it.
I mean, we laugh, but it is like it's one of the real tragedies of our time, really. I mean, there are very few countries that you can point to that are similar to Canada in that regard. Voluntarily poor, or not poor, but voluntarily sort of middle of the road.
I think we got a theme going today on beer commercials. And I said Pierre Poilievre was like, I am Canadian, the old Molson's commercial. I am Canadian. But on the other one of it, like in incompetence in lying for the Liberals, they should be doing the hold my beer. Oh yeah? Watch me. I can do worse than you. And here's Lena Diab. Like she's got to be almost half of Canadians surveyed nationwide say immigration is causing Canada to change in ways they don't like. And that's according to in-house research by the Immigration Department. 2/3 complain immigrants must do more to integrate. The research followed Immigration Minister Diab their most recent cuts to quotas. This lady is as unserious as it gets. The respondents were told...
Well, even their own Liberal colleagues think that, don't they? We saw that in that CBC article.
It's like basically a clown show. Respondents were told 380,000 immigrants is roughly 1% of Canada's current population. Knowing this, do you feel that this would be too many, too few? And 51% said too many. Yet they continue to just amp, but they use different techniques, right? Oh, these ones are temporary, these ones are asylum seekers, and they just keep labeling things differently. It's like how they get the budget up for the Canadian military. Oh, we put these trees in there, and they tried to put all the people that work for the government in there.
Well, they just bought hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Colt rifles as well from the Americans. I don't think we've got that story there, but that's what they're doing. Give it to America.
Well, I mean, that's the only place you can really buy military equipment, right?
Indeed, which makes it a little bit odd to pretend that you're going to divest from the United States.
And who's the biggest user of Minister Diab's department? None other than our friend Tim. Tim likes foreign staff. The cabinet agreed to ease some restrictions on migrant labor under lobbying by none other than Tim's. Access to information records show operators claim tens of thousands of jobs would go unfilled if they couldn't hire foreigners. Pay them more. Unemployment for youth in Canada above 14%, 15%, 20% in some areas. And they say those kids refuse to work at Tim Hortons. Pay them more. Canadians should not be made to subsidize Tim Hortons' bottom line through less access to healthcare, high inflation, no jobs. But Tim Hortons wants cheap labor. They want slave labor. The food service sector faces 63,000 job vacancies. Those are lies. There's high unemployment in Canada. So there's not vacancies. Pay them more. So stop going to Tim's until they pay staff more. I mean, we've shown you the atrocities that they did when I think there was one franchise that had 3 locations they bought in Ontario and fired all the current staff that had worked there for years. Why? Because they wanted to hire cheap staff. And then only when Tim Hortons, the corporate body, stepped in and said, you can't do that. And yet Tim Hortons still does this on an ongoing basis. Tim Hortons not the only guilty one. A&W also said that this wants cheap staff. Quebec workers are moving towards more stable and better paid sectors, said the petition. Students cannot cover essential shifts. Pay them more. Why should Canada and Canadians subsidize Tim Hortons and A&W's need for cheap labor? Or shut your business down? One or the other. One or the other. It's unfair to the rest of Canada that you don't want to pay more and you say nobody will take the job because you don't pay enough.
But it's also like, usually a government, we've said this lots of times, you're very limited in what you can subsidize in your economy. There's only so much you can do, otherwise it would invert the nature of the economy and the whole thing would collapse. So given that, why would you choose to subsidize English muffins and coffee? Like, what the hell? Why is this a priority?
Look at the franchise lobby. Their lobbies. A&W restaurant franchise in 2025 petitioned Parliament for exemptions to hire more migrant labor. In telecom, Melanie Jolie's brother runs in telecom, like a delivery service, like a last mile delivery service for the likes of Amazon, full of temporary foreign workers. So they're the ones making the laws, also benefiting from it. Policies that benefit the few, Tim Hortons' bottom line, A&W's bottom line, at the expense of the many. People dying on waiting lists for scans, sitting in waiting rooms for 12, 14 hours. So Tim Hortons can have a better bottom line. This should stop immediately. This should absolutely stop immediately. We shouldn't be importing people into Canada to fill entry-level jobs when our youth at this high of an unemployment rate. This should be a no-go. So these lobbyist groups are getting away with it. And these lobby groups, what's the fine? Remember the lobby groups if you get caught for lobbying? What was it, like less than a parking ticket?
Yeah, it was like $200, I think, wasn't it, that one? Yeah.
Absolutely atrocious.
Violation. Yeah. Somebody, before I forget, somebody pointed out correctly that it's actually Colt Canada. That throwaway comment that I made about Colt. So it's Colt Canada, which isn't, as you might think, oh, great, okay, so we're buying it from Canada. That's actually a Czech company. So instead of money going to the Americans, it's going to our beloved friends in the Czech Republic. So I guess that's better.
My ancestors are getting all the money. Look at that. Fill in the coffer.
The Jim Czech Republic.
And here's another one to get your blood boiling. The federal government said it could end up spending up to $6.6 billion to update its systems to deliver benefits to Canadians. That's 3 times more than it was budgeted. And this is the same government that wants to start its own space program. Can't even build software. $6.6 billion for software.
I mean, that is just like, what? You kind of have to look at those numbers. You have to stare at them to make them real.
And again, We had Gary there, and then Lena said, hold my beer, I can show you up. And then, of course, we haven't got the seal yet. We've got a beaver. We don't have a seal for, Anita. Anita's got something to say. Let's listen to what Anita and Ann has to say.
And let's just say, everywhere I go as foreign minister, every country, every room, every foreign minister I speak with, the conversation begins with Prime Minister Carney's speech at Davos. And some people call it the speech, the Carney speech, the remarks at Davos, the Carney doctrine. There are many ways we can refer to the remarks he made. And let's just say...
That was a bit cringe, wasn't it? I don't know what I did to deserve that, or anyone else.
Yeah, the only people that like that speech, Anita, are globalists and elitists. It surely doesn't speak to the common person, the person like the everyday average Canadian, because it was a globalist speech. Nobody could understand a word that was said. We did you a favor here on Now Media. We put Marco Rubio's speech and Mark Carney's speech together so you could evaluate them together. You can go find it on here, Rubio versus Carney. Play them together. Which one speaks to the common man and which one speaks to the global elitists? You decide. And so the places where she's going and talking to, she's talking to other elitists that, of course, love elitists and policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. Of course, that's who she speaks to. So that's how out of a touch she is with the common person here in Canada. That's what she believes that speech is. But if you talk to an everyday average person, they don't even know what it said. Even this hour has 22 minutes made fun of that speech because they said nobody even knew what it said. Yep.
I feel like that's almost given a sort of backhanded weird compliment, or that could be taken as a compliment, where it's like, oh, you couldn't understand it, could you? Oh, well, I guess you're just not educated enough to understand it. I mean, my opinion would be that the average person can understand that it was inconsistent babble.
No.
That's certainly my perspective on it. Completely just waffle. Lots of contradictory views all sort of squashed into an ugly sandwich. I still can't get my head around it. I don't know why people are so excited about this speech. And I've watched it and read it like a number of times. And every time I have another go at it, it seems to get more and more ridiculous. It was completely foolish. And everything that he's done, like with Iran, China, the way he's been acting with the US, all of his actions contradict what he said in that speech. It was a completely ludicrous speech. And she's at Chatham House there. You'd think the people at Chatham House would know deep down that was a load of bollocks. That talk about hauteur. Chatham House really think that they're the kings of geopolitics. I think if they can't see through that speech, then God help them.
And you have to ask yourself, that speech that he made does not put Canadians in a better spot. And it never will, because that speech is not meant for you. If you look at the condition of Canada 11 years later, again, like Iain says, we have all the riches and they're just handcuffed. We're handcuffed to these riches and we can't access them because of policy. We talked about that. Tristan said that. Joseph Barbudo said that yesterday. He said, it is the policy that holds Canada back. It is the policy. And taxing energy, it just puts extra weight on the economy for no particular reason. I mean, it's all so obvious. The smart people know. Yep. The smart people know what's going on.
Everyone's freaking out. Why is everybody freaking out about a tiny little country like Qatar and a country that is, you would think, would have nothing to do with anything? A country like Saudi Arabia. Why does anybody care what Saudi Arabia is doing? Oh, yeah. Like, why does everybody know what the Strait of Hormuz is as well? This obscure geographical feature, like thousands of miles away. Oh, yeah. Because it's to do with energy. And absolutely everything in our universe, everything that matters is downstream of energy. And this is why I'm not a massive fan of Bloomberg necessarily, and not all the Financial Times or the Economist or anything like that. But that's why if I'm going to read a newspaper or a magazine, I will always go to the like financial section or something. I will always read that over the bollocks, because they're people who are thinking about their own money and they're not in the mood to lie about it or be lied to about it. They want to know reality. So they're obsessive about things like the Strait of Hormuz because it's their bottom line, because their bottom line is affected by energy. So there's reality.
I'm telling you right now, the media in Canada is the problem. They are the shield and spear for the Liberal Party. They must be dismantled. They must be dismantled. And they need to get reporters and journalists like ourselves asking questions for this government. They will fall so fast because they will be held accountable, because they will not stand the test. They will not stand the test if they were grilled with questions and accountability. And they should not be allowed to hide stuff and continue to hide stuff. This CBC, the hotel and them, they are the problem. They are the issue in Canada. And look at this. This is the ones where they silence the voters here. This is our friend, the former NDP MP that is now a Liberal MP, Lori Idloot. First thing she did when she got in there, she's like, oh, this is how it's done. She ended up buying a whole bunch of artwork from herself and then billed it to you, the taxpayer. Because why shouldn't you pay for that? And then when she got caught, she's like, whoopsie, I just clicked the wrong button. She's like, isn't this how we do it? I thought when you said I come in here, I get everything I want. We got a little...
This is Liberal, doesn't it, on my badge?
Isn't it a get out of jail free card? Somebody.
It's a very rich vein, that, isn't it? It's on. We could just keep going on that one, but yeah, let that one die.
I was lucky enough to travel to Japan, and if you get a chance, I would advise you to go there. Tokyo blew me away. I walked around there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and felt so safe by myself almost every day because I didn't want to wake the family up, and I get up early. Tokyo and Osaka. And here's the new Japanese prime minister here at the White House here. Just watch her expression here, because Trump is full of Trumpisms for sure, but just watch her expression here on this question. You just got to watch her face.
Let me pick a beautiful looking person from Japan. A question for the prime minister. Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Oh, he doesn't believe he's beautiful. Oh, he's sounding shy. Go ahead, please.
Of course, no, Japan and US are very good friends. But one question: why didn't you tell US allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about. We Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay, right? You know, he's asking.
She agrees. Yamamoto should have told Roosevelt about Pearl Harbor. She was like, yeah.
That was classic Trump right there. That was classic Trump. Makes me laugh, man. Makes me laugh.
What was also funny, what did he say there? He's like, let's have a beautiful person. Then he pointed to somebody, and I guess that was somebody who was part of the delegation or something. What did he say there? He's like, oh, he's just selling something? Like, what?
But
that looked like it was funny.
This message is for Audra, Carney's handler, that seems to now want to be involved in the Canadian press. Just get right in there and get your face in there as well. Notice how Trump lets everybody into the media? Like, just lets whoever wants to ask a question, Trump lets in. How about an interview with Mark Carney, Audra? How about that? How about you set up and get an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour interview with Mark Carney and us? You know, a couple of guys. You can even sit there. You can sit there and you can feed them the answers if you want. Here's something, again, with that, you thought that was funny. Japanese culture is very different. And you can look at this and obviously the relationship between Trump and the Japanese is very strong. Watch this, because usually it's a very like a bow kind of culture. Watch this as she greets President Trump here, and watch his hand go out. Watch. There you go. Now watch
Wow,
it in
that's
slow.
that's
Now,
crazy, isn't it?
now
For Japan.
watch it in slow mo here. We slowed it down for you because it was really big. We slowed it down for you because we wanted to make sure. No, we have the next video. It's in slow mo already. I don't need you to slow it down.
Enhance.
We have the budget. Oh, turn the music off though. Turn the music off. Ready? There's the hand goes out, and she's like, none of that.
Get in here, Big Donnie.
Like Mark Root said, who's your daddy?
Look at Don. Donnie doing a kiss as well. He thought he was going to be kissing her on the cheek.
Who's your daddy?
He had his pursed lips, didn't he? But yeah, that is unusual for Japan. Much more like Japan, Japanese culture is where the most powerful person in Japan, namely this woman here, was sat there like making herself very small and giggling like a sort of innocent schoolgirl. While at the beginning of when they were in the Oval Office there. That's kind of like Japanese culture, isn't it? Where there's no indication that she is like extremely powerful, and she really is one of the most powerful Japanese leaders in ages.
You watch her in her
majority.
If you watch her in her parliament or whatever they call it there, she's a ferocious tiger. Like she is a crouching tiger, what they would say, sleeping dragon, crouching tiger. I don't know how that saying goes, but
that's Chinese, but
and sorry.
And it's the Diet, isn't it? That's their parliament.
We got one more clip here from this exchange here at the White House.
Hit because of this development.
でも私は、世界の、繁栄とそして、平和に、貢献できる、世界中に、平和と繁栄をもたらせるのはドナルドだけだと思っています。
But even against that backdrop, I firmly believe that it is only you, Donald, who can achieve peace across the world.
そのために私は、諸外国に働きかけて、しっかりと応援をしたいと思っています。
And to do so, I am ready to reach out to many of the partners in the international community to achieve our objective together.
今日私はそれを伝えに来ました。
So today I came here at the White House to directly convey this message to you.
そしてイランに関してはもう核兵器の開発、これは許されてはならないことですから日本も働きかけをしてきました。
And speaking of the situation in
That's good anyway.
Yeah. Somebody threw me there. Phil Hukin in the comments there completely threw me, where he's saying she looks good for 85. She's actually 65.
She's
I was
not
going to
80.
say like, what? But then again, you never know. Like
Japanese
people
look very young. They
have
look
the
very
longest life expectancy, don't they?
Again, if you ever get a chance to go to Tokyo, do it. One of the cleanest cities I've ever been in. World's largest city as well. No homelessness, no drug, nothing. Just absolutely beautiful. No garbage. And don't throw garbage on the ground either. Trust me. Here's one here. NASA handing handing SpaceX the keys to the moon, according to Bloomberg. You can play this little clip here. Boeing's instead of Boeing's SLS rocket doing the heavy lifting, looks like Starship is going to be the rocket of the future as America embarks on a mission to build a moon base and go to Mars. Canada wrings its hands on how to open the lock on our vast riches and how to get past one lie over another lie. Hey?
It's hard to believe that's real, isn't it? It just doesn't look real.
Yeah. What's harder to believe is how he caught that stupid thing.
Yeah.
And what did the person on CBC say? That Joe Rogan actually interviewed that man right there. The most consequential man on the planet Earth. Probably the greatest inventor of all time. Probably one of the most you could, if you want to say the most creative destructor of all time. So he's destroyed whole industries based on his creativity. Changed the world in so many ways. We added a new feature on the Really Big Show, and I think you're going to like it. It's the Really Big Show salute for still doing it right. Do you know that? Because we got to salute the good stuff too. And it's you know, few and far between. But if you're doing something right, or you know somebody's doing something right, send it in to us. And you can do it in the members thing. You can send it to news@nowmediagroup.ca. You can go on the reallybigshow.ca. There's a form there you can send in. You have different ways to communicate with us. But if you knew somebody that needs a salute, by all means, send it in to us, and we will do the Canadian salute. And this one here deserves a salute. And this is the Costco CEO here. Listen to him here, holding the line on the $1.50 hot dog. And a Coke. You get a Coke too, or whatever you want to drink with it. Let's play this here.
Can I get a hot dog? Thank you very much. Take care.
Hear the sound, yeah. Just anyway, the hot dog. Mr. Hot Dog.
What, is he having no condiments? Is he for real?
Yeah, he's going bare there. I don't know. I guess
Absolutely insane. I've never seen anyone roll dog a hot dog.
I load mine up. I guess he's going to a bunch of stores. I load mine up. And, you know, there's no better value. And I used to try to do 2 because I'm just like, this is a good deal. This is a long time ago. And my wife always said, like, stop doing 2, man. You feel great after 1. The second one, then you're whining later that you shouldn't have eaten 2.
I mean, I've done many a doubler myself. But yeah, it's right, isn't it? You shouldn't. Some people must go and then do like 5 or 6 or something.
Well, if you're
just help yourself, really.
If you're single, that's a good place to take a date. $3, 2 drinks, a couple of dogs.
IKEA.
I don't like the IKEA hot dogs. They're cheaper, but they're I don't like them.
They are a bit more rubbery, aren't they?
They're got a different texture. I don't know if anybody in the comments like the IKEA hot dog. Not much for the taste. I think, what is it? 3 for, I don't know what it is. It's some cheaper deal though, anyway, I think, right? But
I think they're like $1, aren't they, at IKEA?
Yeah, they're smaller. The bun is a little more meh. But you know what? I used to hang out with this lawyer friend of mine. I think he's a judge now, but we used to buy dinner for each other all the time. I took him once. We were at a tournament in Vancouver, and I said, I'm taking you out for dinner and get as many entrees as you want. I took him to IKEA. Because they got the entrees at in the cafeteria upstairs. Cheap food there, IKEA. I think they got a really cheap breakfast too. If you have if you're lucky enough to have an IKEA in your town, it's a $1.99 breakfast or something like that, right? That's right. $800 in groceries or $600 in groceries, and then you can go get a $1.50 hot dog. But yeah, I mean, you're never going to find. So that's salute for that, though. They held the line because they were going to raise it a number of years ago, and they decided not to because it's kind of like their contribution, because you know it's costing them more than $1.50 to serve up that hot dog and the drink, right? So
I would be surprised if it was a lot more, though.
Yeah,
because it's probably quite cheap, isn't it? If you think it's just mystery meat and a bun, you know, it's not like.
But it's a good hot dog, though, too, right? I think it's the all beef hot dog, because I've bought them for home as well, and it's a big bun. Like the Costco one is like, that's the one that you buy for kids' fundraisers, you know, the cheap mystery meat hot dog, because I think the Costco one's all beef, and the IKEA one is mystery meat, and we're not sure what and they give you like a packet of mustard and ketchup, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and some lingonberry juice.
And one more salute for sure. So we got a couple of salutes today, and the world lost Chuck Norris today, and Air Force veteran, martial arts legend, and I remember Chuck Norris there when he fought Bruce Lee in one of those movies there. That's where the Crouching Tiger, Sleeping Dragon or something was. That's where it was stuck in my mind. You can put that back up with Chuck.
Hidden Dragon.
Hidden Dragon, something like that. There you go.
He was one of the first.
Where's Chuck?
He was one of the first people to be converted into a meme in entirety as well, just like him as a person. That's been done to a lot of people since that, but I'm pretty sure he was like the first one. He became just a meme. So a lot of people, like a lot of the younger people, Generation Z or whatever they are, they will know him probably just as a meme, I would say.
Somebody said that Chuck went off to fight the Ayatollah in the afterlife. Chuck Norris, tough guy. You know, what was that? It was Dragon. What was that Bruce Lee movie? Bruce Lee, another great.
Enter the Dragon, are you thinking?
Enter the Dragon. Yeah, that's right. Enter the Dragon. One of the great kung fu or karate movies or whatever it was. Kung fu.
Yeah, it must be Kung Fu. Yeah.
Kung Fu Fighter. That good song. Kung Fu Fighter. Yeah. It was the big battle scene at the end there where Chuck was all bare chested and so was Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was amazing, actually.
Yeah, he was a very interesting chap. And Pierre Poilievre and Joe Rogan talked about Bruce Lee, didn't they? Actually, I think it was Poilievre kept wanting to talk about Bruce Lee, but he didn't quite get anywhere. Didn't find any interest.
One of my fondest memories, people are going to love this. One of my fondest memories, we used to go to the Soyuz Drive-In, and it's called the Sagebrush Drive-In, and we went to watch a Bruce Lee movie. It was in a 61 Ford pickup, 61 Ford pickup, the three of us in the front of the cab, and I was, we had our drink, and I was like playing with it, and I was like the ice thing or whatever, and one of my buddies says, "Boob." And I looked up, what? You missed it. That was it. The only boob that showed up in the whole movie. I think I was like 15 or 16 at the time. That was my fond memory.
So it was, sorry to crash into your memories there, but it was actually Way of the Dragon, not Enter the Dragon.
Wasn't it? Enter the Dragon?
Enter the Dragon is a Bruce Lee film, but the one with Chuck Norris is Way of the Dragon.
There you go.
Subtle difference.
Chuck Norris had a storied career. So the other big kung fu people at the time, David Carradine. Do you remember David Carradine? He had that TV show. He had that, I think, series where he had to carry the pot there with his hands. I can't remember the name of that. Kung Fu. What was it called? I can't remember. Somebody
Kung
probably.
Fu? Just Kung Fu?
Is it called Kung Fu? And he also did Death Wish 2000. Enter the Dragon. Way of the Dragon, 1972. There you go. Crouching Tiger. Kung Fu.
Yeah. David Carradine.
Grasshopper. There, David Carradine. Grasshopper. Yeah.
He was in Kill Bill as well, wasn't he? Like Quentin Tarantino's tribute to those kung fu movies. I thought he was the best part of that, I would say. It's like a couple of films on that. He was great in that.
Well, we do want to add in the salute, and so we've added that in. So if you think of anything that we should salute, more than happy to add the salute in. Because we think we should look at what's good and what's bad. And I think, like for what, I think we should add in a salute to Pierre Poilievre and representing Canada there with Joe Rogan with I Am Canadian Values. I believe that he represented Canada well. We'll say that here, even though the CBC did the opposite of that. So we know that we got to be in the right if we go against what the CBC is pushing out there. So, I mean, that seems a pretty easy test, right? If CBC is all about the hotel, we're about just grassroots, blue collar, even though we're wearing white collar right now. But wax on, wax off. And salutes to Pierre. And again, to the Costco boys, way to do it. Maybe if more corporations would step up and make sure the Canadians aren't feeling so much pain right now, that would be helpful. Very helpful. We're going to take a half-hour break, and we're going to come back at noon for our members. And you can jump in there. It'll be probably a 15, 20-minute session today. But if you have questions in that, and we have some really good interviews coming up. We got a former UK, I think she's former UK political person that is going to talk to us about net zero, which is great. They reached out. We're just like, okay, sure. I think we should try to get that young girl, the anti-Greta Thunberg there too. We should try to get her on. We should see if she wants. Tia.
Hey, I wonder how you pronounce that. Actually, I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll ask her because looks like she wants to become notorious or famous or whatever she wants to become. Maybe we should ask Greta if she wants to come on and do her hotel. Yeah. She can explain her Joan of Arc haircut.
Wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to get through the Israel stuff, would you? She would just. I don't know how you could talk to somebody like that. For some people, the Israel stuff just becomes everything, you know, becomes like the omni subject. So I think we would struggle.
Hot dogs for everybody. And we'll see you on Monday morning at 9 a.m. for the members. You want to come back? You're back here. We're going to hit this at noon. So I don't know, what's that, like 23 minutes from now? And Ian's going to go see if he can choke down one of those Costco hot dogs and rush back here. All right. See you in a few minutes. Cheers.